week 27. So we've been going and we're here and we're still here. And I'm hoping that everybody still benefits from the information from the presentations that we bring to you. We start off how we usually start off with a libation. So we give thanks to our ancestors. I give thanks to all the ancestors who's actually made it through while we are here. All the trials and the tribulations that they've gone through, we give thanks for their tenacity, we give thanks for their bravery, we give thanks for the fact that they actually persevered. So for that, I give thanks.
Ashe.
Ashe.
I also give thanks to our leaders, our heroes. As I said, Marcus Messiah Garvey, I always mention him. All the ancestors, names we know, names we don't know, names we will never know, but they all helped to pave the way. They all helped to us to pick ourselves up and keep on going. They all helped us to realize that there is another way forward. And through those heroes of our past has brought us our heroes for what we have now. And we have a couple also actually in this room right here. So I give thanks to those ancestors and I give thanks for their leadership. Ashe.
Ashe.
I also give thanks to my ancestors. You give thanks to your ancestors, whose heads and shoulders who we are all standing upon. The reasons why we are here now. Those good ancestors who's led us to the path that we're here now. The good ancestors that's led us and guided us and helped us through. And we have to remember that they're there to help us. So we need to ask them for help. So when they give us the answers, when we ask, let their answers be as clear as this water so that we can actually hear and heed and understand what they mean. And also have an open mind, because their answers won't just be as clear as this water. It will be a message in a song. It will be somebody who's passing you. A stranger might have something to say to you, and that is their answer. That is their message to you. It could be a script that you've read, or of a book that you've opened, or a line in a song. These are our messages. Let our minds be open so that we can heed and understand them. Ashe.
Ashe.
And also I give thanks to the Most High, the Divine One, who's given us all creatures great and small, who's given us the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, and the life that we can continue to live. We are as I say, the guardians of this world. Let us continue and be the right guardians that this world needs. Ashe.
Ashe.
I just went blank. Ashe. Thank you.
Ashe.
Okay. Ashe. Has anybody got anything to say?
No.
On that note? No.
No, I haven't got anything
Okay.
to say.
Royston, have we heard any word on Charles yet?
Yeah, I've texted you.
He's in the chat now.
Okay.
He's traveling. So Sasha, yes, we'll start with you and then go on to him subsequently.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right. Well, the footage that we have, you have that ready, Royston?
Yes, for when we're ready.
We can start that, because Sasha is also part of that footage as well. And I'd like everybody to, when you have any questions throughout the actual presentation, if you get a pen and paper and write down your questions or put it into the chat, so that so Sasha, when she's doing her presentation, is not going to be interrupted, so she can do her flow. We ask her questions afterwards, and yes, make sure you got your water for hydration as well. And Sasha, I welcome you so much to the Garvey Villages, Remedies and Keys. Thank you so much, and thank you for being one of our leaders. Thank you.
Sister, thank you.
Okay, so Royston, would you? We got the 7-minute footage. I'm sure you know about it. That's actually I saw today. So I'm going to get Royston to play it, and then we can start with your presentation. Okay, that gives a little bit of an insight of who you are.
London in the summer of 2020. Emotions exploded here and in British towns and cities as the Black Lives Movement took hold and gained support, rising from street protest into popular culture. Few in the UK political establishment realised then, but a new party would emerge from the cauldron of protest, although Black Lives made no secret of it if anyone cared to listen.
We want our own political party, one that reflects the multicultural nation that we have become.
Arise News was given first access to the new party's leading lights. Our first meeting had more than a touch of red carpet swagger. Self-made property tycoon Charles Gordon is a senior figure and one of the party's main backers. Charles's colleague Sasha Johnson, an Oxford graduate, has already grabbed media attention.
Black power!
She's been dubbed by critics on social media as a cut-price Che Guevara.
They're racist. Get ready to fight them. If they don't bring peace, they know what's going to happen. One solution! Revolution! One solution! Revolution!
Meeting her, I had no doubt about her commitment to bringing about social change and the price that may have to be paid.
What I want to say is, to me, if it doesn't come in peace, there's only one way that change has ever happened, isn't it? It's through violence.
And you support that?
I don't support violence against the innocent, but I support violence against oppressors and tyranny.
And would that include the forces of law and order in the UK?
Not just the law and order in the UK, but globally, what oppression is signified out there. But in the UK, what it means is that we're awake now. We're asking for the change first and foremost. We're asking for unity. We're asking for social justice. And if you feel that that's too much to give, that's our basic human rights, then we've got a problem.
The Taking the Initiative Party, or TTIP, is releasing its manifesto this week. Pledges including replacing the upper chamber of the UK Parliament with a People's Assembly, a cap on politicians' pay and expenses, more house building and a reduction in property taxes. They don't rule out a second referendum to rejoin the EU. They're pro-entrepreneurs and strong trade links with other nations. All fairly non-controversial stuff, but the manifesto does have some groundbreaking pledges which will send eyebrows in white Middle England shooting up. TTIP wants to set up a race offenders list, rather like the sex offenders list, as Charles explains.
The objective and the idea behind it was that we feel that there's a lot of systemic racism which isn't being addressed in society, and the objective was to try and create some form of register which allows people who do commit racist offences, and some of them might be minor, some of them might be major, but basically a process where they can be registered and these things can be recorded, because the issue is that when you have racism on any level, the problem is if it's not accounted for in some way or form, or if it's not identified in some way or form, the issue is that those people then go on to become members of society. They become our judges, they become our teachers, they become all of those things, and they go through life with those, what's the word, I mean, for want of a better word, inherent probably problems, let's say, and I'll put it down as a problem or an issue or even an illness to a degree, and those things aren't dealt with, they're not addressed, and because they're not addressed, then you find that then adds to the systemic racism that we're dealing with in the UK.
Reparations for the Victorian slave trade and compensation in the form of tax relief for Britain's black community is another manifesto pledge.
Well, I mean, that is ultimately the amount of people that have been impacted by slavery, and I think that there's no nice way of putting it, and I think, to be fair, I think if people, I mean, and for not wanting to compare it to the Holocaust, but ultimately a lot of people suffered, and it's generations and generations of people that are still dealing with the repercussions of that, and I think that as black people in the UK specifically, there's been nothing done to compensate that, and I think that that's, for want of a better word, just wrong.
Police stop and search for suspects carrying knives is also in TTIP's crosshairs for reform, with a fine against police in the case of wrongful arrest.
So the thought process was, in order to kind of introduce some kind of accountability, for stop and search, that there should be some kind of remuneration, i.e. so if a person does get stopped and searched and it is resulting in no further action, then that person should receive some compensation, because as well as the indignity of being stopped and searched on the side of the street, it's also a waste of police time. And the thought process was that even from a police perspective, it would work as some form of deterrent to stop those things.
Is the new party another neo-Marxist political group, or one similar in tone to the UK Black Panther movement that flourished in the 1960s? The answer is no. TTIP is in favour of toughening immigration rules, strengthening the UK's armed forces. It wants more police on the streets and sees the relationship with the US as vital.
Absolutely. We're not just hoping to attract the predominant black vote. We are an inclusive party, and it will be about the working classes as an entirety, which does actually represent about 80% of the UK. And just because I, for myself, happen to be black, it doesn't mean I'm only looking for the black vote. I think that would be very naive.
Do you regard yourself as working class? I mean, you turned up today in a Rolls Royce.
Well, you've got to live life, haven't you? But I would regard myself as a working class woman, definitely.
They also want to see a temporary halt to Britain's foreign aid bill, including $3 billion a year to Africa. And people will be watching this and being quite worried, watching in countries like Nigeria, that you, as a new party, want to cut foreign aid. What would you say to them?
I would say that we want to review foreign aid as opposed to just come, we're not coming to swing an axe, but I think there is something that there's historical patterns where it hasn't served either Britain or...
I don't think the manifesto says review, I think it says to cut.
To cut? Well, if necessary, then to cut. I think sometimes tough decisions have to be made.
With millionaire backers and firebrands like Sasha Johnson on board, pitching to the traditional UK working classes could prove to be something of a hard sell. But Charles Gordon and his colleagues believe they've caught the mood and can inspire followers. The TTIP party, with its likeable and confident leadership, will face its first big test in the London Assembly elections due in May. Only then will the British public get their chance to give their verdict on the UK's newest political party that was born out of the Black Lives Movement. John Cookson, Arise News, London.
I'm on mute, sorry. Thank you, Royston. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Sasha Johnson. Let us know about yourself. I'm all tongue-tied today. I don't know why. Introduce yourself and welcome.
Hi everybody, I'm Sasha Johnson. I'm from Oxford. I see myself as a freedom fighter and a revolutionary in today's day. And I do thank my ancestors for laying that path and showing me the direction to go in. I think the video that you just seen, some of it I will tell you that I admittedly am for, some of it I'm not for. And some of it wasn't protruded in the right way. So when he says that the party is looking to cut aid to Africa, that is not in any way, shape or form correct. As I believe that Africa has not received reparation and the UK could never afford to pay that reparation back in the time I'm living. So the least that we could give in the time that they're waiting for that justice is as much aid as possible. So that was taken out of context by the reporter. And in fact, in the manifesto, it says nothing about removing aid from Africa. It says about reviewing foreign aid on a whole, as we're aware. We're aware that not all the aid is accessed by the people who need it the most. Sometimes the people that need it the most are the most far from accessing those aids. So that's all we were saying with that. But going forward, tonight I wanted to talk about how important education empowerment is within the Black community, especially for the generation now. As I believe we've gone past looking at individual cases of police brutality, but looking more at a whole social system, a whole social structure. And I call that the superstructure. And it's that structure that keeps us all divided in different facets, not able to have that unified voice to say, this is what we're asking for, and this is what we want to see come out and how it should be implemented. What really started me marching was not just the George Floyd incident, but incidents that were happening. As growing up, I realized that more and more Black young men were going extinct, if I call it that. there's long been a pandemic, and I believe that pandemic started on our young men when they started building more prisons, taking away funding from youth services, and high exclusion rates in schools, schools being infiltrated by corporations with financial means and stuff like that. So that really was what I was looking at when I thought about March, and I thought about what can I do to preserve the next generation of us Black young people that are coming into this world and wanting to have a fair chance at actually achieving something tangible, something that we could pass down to generations of our children. Because I realized that the one thing a white young person had over us is walking in the classroom, they knew exactly who they were. And they were planning 50, 100 years ahead. As in, we went into these classrooms not knowing who we were apart from slavery, barbaric and uncivilized. And I found that a problem, because I found when I got to university and I started learning more about Black leadership and Black empires and Black trade systems and stuff like that, I realized that, oh, our people's been long at the forefront of all of this. Why is it being spoken about like we were behind and we're catching up, and we're still not yet to catch up? We had it, they stole it, and they colonized our mind. They mentally colonized us, not just in a physical concept of moving us from Africa into all these Western worlds and stuff. They colonized us mentally. They made us believe that we was inferior and that we came from nothing, so therefore we will amount to nothing. So that was really what my problem was with the current climate in the country, and what motivated me most was marching alongside my elders. So I, as a young person, will have the knowledge, but I don't have the wisdom. And that wisdom, I believe, comes from lived experiences and what you and other ancestors have experienced before. Because in order to change the future, there's some elements of the past that you have to understand and know. And that's where I was. If anyone has any questions, so then we could keep the discussion going and get my nerves gone.
Thank you. I think that was absolutely brilliant. And thank you also for stepping up, because a lot of us, we think this should be happening, that should be happening, but we don't feel that we have to be the one to step up and take that place and move forward and, you know, make that step and be counted, so to speak. And so I thank you so much for that, and looking at the gaps and basically doing your part to fill that gap. I thank you for that. I thank you. Has anybody got any questions?
No questions at all.
So I got 2 questions. You said, so there's a statement I'd like you to comment on, that it's been said that our generation, my generation as older people, we created a vacuum where our parents were the pioneers and they did some stuff, and that we didn't particularly follow and add to that. So there's a vacuum where someone like you and your generation is choosing to step into that. So I welcome that, and I'd love to hear you say more about that. And you said you have the knowledge but not the wisdom. How are you getting that support so that you can develop that wisdom or be guided by that wisdom?
So pretty much I've been out here. When you do radical stuff that a lot of people, even though they understand where you're coming from, they're just not seeing your cause of action as the action that's needed. So it's been hard to find elders that are willing to stand with me in this fight, especially because of things I'm saying. I don't know if you all know about an interview I had with Tommy Robinson, which was a previous leader of the EDL. So I had an interview with him where I called a Black man a coon. And a lot of people are like, oh, she used a racial slur towards another Black man. I believe if I see a spade, I will call it a spade. And for me, the reason I didn't want to manage my words in a delicate way to say, oh, this Black man is selling out other Black people, is if I see it to what it is, I have to call it out so other people watching it could know exactly what that person represents. Is that they didn't represent the Black you or me. They represented a side of Blackness that didn't want our Blackness to shine through. They want to be that side of Blackness that says, we'll turn the other cheek and we'll be calm and master, I will do as you say. And I found a problem with that. So when I spoke out about that and I called him a coon, a lot of people stared away from me. So I only had some of the elders that came to me from behind, like I've met with Minister Hillary, I've met with Brother Leo. I've spoken to some of the leaders that would speak to me on that level, that isn't scared of what it is that I'm saying, like the message that I'm out here giving. For some, when I say revolution, they think of bloodshed. First, I talk of a social revolution, but I also believe by any means necessary that we have to get to it. There's only so long that you can continue to be passive and go through and take pacifiers. Like you said, the vacuum that was left, there's no room for a pacifier anymore. It's now or never. And when I say now or never, it's because we're going into eras like a cashless society. We have Brexit that's coming, which is an infringement on our human rights. We have so much that's yet to come to double up the oppression that we're already coming through. So that's why I believe it was now or never. So I didn't want to break down my words to be polite and kind and politically correct when I said there's no Jewish man that will silence me, because when we look at how things are, we are Semitic people. So how could I offend somebody that is wishing they were who we were? And that all goes a part of knowing your history and being firm in knowing who I am. That has helped me a lot, because it means that people can't come in and sway my voice in the sense to say, oh, you're such an intelligent young woman, but people won't understand you. But if you speak this way, they will. I don't believe in that. I'm here for my people. I carry a very clear message. It's up to you whether you want to hear it. I also know that not everyone will be ready for the revolution in the time that I'm ready. I give the option for you to fall in when you're ready. Hence why when I started the journey in the thick of it, I reached out to the US Black Panthers and I spoke to them and I asked for support. And I said to them, here in the UK, some of us as the younger generation, we're awake, but some of us are still literally sleeping. We're minding the business that pays us. That goes back into social conditioning. Certain elders that I spoke to have said, oh, but I've marched back then and I'm not on the marching stuff no more. I'm more for what we could do for solutions. But until we create the awareness, there's no point looking for solutions, because we're going to need to be at one to have those solutions to be implemented anyway. So my thing is, when I had elders say to me, I've marched, or I was marching years ago, I'm not in the marching thing, that's partially you giving up the fight. And if that's the first thing I'm going to hear when I interact with you, when I'm saying just trust us and pass that baton on, that's when I say I have knowledge, but you have wisdom. So there's many things that you might have tried in the past that didn't work, or you might have seen certain infiltration that you could help me, or you have certain links that you could help me to make, because at the end of the day, I'm one person. When I got this call, it was more than just a call to march. It was more, this was something that woke me up at 5 a.m. in the morning with tears in my eyes, and I fell to my knees. There's not many people that I would have told that story to, but I think it's important for people to understand who I am, is that I didn't get this call from a person or a physical being. I got this call from what I believe to be a higher power. So it didn't call me to come here for the side of it. When I say performative activism, where people get swayed by the media and start wanting to please the media, I never came here for that. I came here to deliver clear and direct messages. Now is the time for a revolution. Scary. Why is it that Black leadership is so scary, but yet we've been led by these white people for however many years, and we've never said that we're scared of them. Instead, we've continued to vote traditional politics, Labour, Conservative. Now, I've seen since Brexit's come about how quick it is to amend these laws and change these laws. So it made me see that it was pure ignorance why they didn't want to do it for us. They don't count us. When we're paying back slave owners up until 2015, that means that they're still seeing us as property up until 2015. When we have a government aiming on building a 2.5 million prison rather than putting money into youth services and community work and reshaping the way in which the police interacts with our youth, then there's a problem. When we have a prime minister referring to us as watermelons and pickle lilies, there's a problem. And we could shy away from it as much, but I live in a thing called, what is reality? When I look at reality, is they're that scared of my skin that they will call me a terrorist, and they will scare my own people away from standing by my side. And my own people will say I'm too black for them. And at the same breath, they will say ISIS was what we should have been scared of. But let's be honest, ISIS didn't bring us to our knees. A failed system did. And it put our people most at the forefront of that risk. And when we look at the reality of it, we have to ask these questions. These questions are there to be asked. What happened to ISIS? What happened to the Windrush paperwork? how did this computer get cleared of the Grenfell paper? They're doing things so blatant. And when I'm asking these blatant questions, the only way that they could deter from these questions is by labeling me angry. And as a Black woman, I'm entitled to be angry. Damn right I should be angry. I should have been angry from the start to the finish, because who does it impact? The Black woman has been a beast of burden for all of these changes that have happened in this society, whether it be from going from nomadic to the capitalist to industrialization. We've been at the forefront of contributing to these things, but never having the Black contribution mentioned, not having the Black contribution. Nothing's given back to our community. When I looked at the Florence Nightingale and the Mary Segal thing, when I was looking at the COVID things with Belly Majinga and stuff, I said, wait, but we have a national holiday for Florence Nightingale, but nothing for Mary Segal. So I'm looking at the constant contribution that we've given over the years, and we've had nothing. The suffragette movement, Black women and Black men was at the forefront of that to help push it to where it even became. And that was just because white women wanted to vote. And we supported their views. It's so hard for them to support our views. That is the vacuum that's there. As young people are saying, enough is enough. We're becoming more entrepreneurial, going more into entrepreneurship rather than going through this public school system, learning to be someone's employee, where they're training their kids through private school to be our employers. And those children are openly showing racist views. So that shows us as the coming generation that we can't just stand by and mind a business that pays us, because in fact that business doesn't pay us. When we're getting paid, we're paying taxes at every corner that we're looking at. And then you have a class of people that say that they do philanthropy and avoid paying that tax. So it's getting to know the system enough to understand where they've placed us in the system and how we're gonna bypass the hurdle, because everything has a yin and a yang, a duality to it. And that was simply where I found feeling that vacuum was needed.
Thank you. I'll give space for someone else to ask. Thank you.
Anybody else got a question to ask?
No, not at all.
Okay. Thank
Greetings.
you.
I
Okay.
do.
Greetings, Sis and
had
Queen.
I had some questions set up for Charles, but I mean, I think I would like to ask Sasha.
Yeah, just a sec before that, Sister M Queen had a question to ask.
Thank you. Hi, sorry.
Charles.
Sorry, sis. My question for Sister Sasha. Is that the right name? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, sister.
Yeah. I just wanted to know if you have, do you stand alone in what you do? And it's a two-part question. So that's a quick one. Is that a yes or a no? You stand alone in what you do?
At the moment, I do have people that do support, but some people are scared to support on the forefront. So when I say behind the views that I have, yes, I stand alone on them at times, yeah.
Okay. So have you spoken to Brother Respect? Is that family? Is that
so when trying to, I'll be honest as possible without feeling like I'm bruising anyone's organized, because I believe that it would have been better if he was present for me to go into that. But the overall thing is, we've had conversations about having conversations. When I tried to reach out, I was told that one of the members that are leading with him said I was too Black for them.
Really?
Oh.
Really?
Okay.
That's why it's always good to have conversations when all parties are present.
Yes,
I don't want them to feel that I took it wrong, because I didn't take it wrong, because the things I'm saying, it's expected for people to want to know me a bit more before they just jump on to say I support it. So when I heard that, the response was, she's a bit too Black and we're a security business rather than a militia in the sense of a revolution, militia like boots on the ground. I think the idea I was given was they're trying to build more of a business.
Okay, well, I guess we might need to bring you both forces together and have a media. Okay, thank you.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Even if it's not this forum, but to get that done.
The extended part of your question was about Forever Family. What's the relationship there?
Forever Family is Brother Respect.
Respect, yeah.
So he's the leader of it. So
Okay.
she knows that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you know what? I am listening, but I'm still driving.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll wait till you've landed, Charles. We have to grill you on both sides.
Okay. Sasha, also thank you for clarifying about the aid to Africa, because even hearing that, I knew that wasn't how it went.
No.
You know, because you know they have a way of doctoring you know, how footage are, and I know Africa doesn't really need aid. It's got its own resources.
We're trying to establish them staying out of Africa, so then Africa won't need their aid.
That's right.
To trade in properly with Africa. So I think he wanted to draw context to that, because it will lift any black person's eyebrow. How can they want to help black people if they want to remove aid from Africa? It gives the idea that we don't know which way we're swaying, when in fact that's not the case. I'm pretty sure, because I'm here to be my brother's keeper, and I won't forsake him.
Yeah.
And just on that point, this is Charles. I am still driving, so I've still got my camera off, and I will be at a solid location soon, so I can speak properly. But yeah, just on that point, I think one of the main things that I've seen throughout is people constantly trying to turn black people against each other, and I think that was a typical example of that happening, or attempting to happen. So I think, and because ultimately there's no manifesto that's going to be drafted by black people and talk about depriving other black people. So that was just the point I wanted to throw in. And in relation to Sasha, I do feel that Sasha is a girl that needs to be commended on all levels, just for her strength of character, because the fight that she's taken on is a very big one, and a lot of people don't acknowledge or understand the depth of it. And what I hate about our people is that as soon as there's a problem in any capacity, they're the first to kind of field and run away like mice with a lot of situations. And I think, to be fair, if we all stood behind each other, we'd get a lot more done and a lot more respect. But that was just something I wanted to throw in. But actually, yeah, you're doing amazingly well, my love. All right, and I'm still listening.
Thank you. Thank you.
True, Charles. Sorry. Just to even, please, if you can give us the name of that link that you played, so that we can leave comments at the bottom of that.
Right. Do you know what? We haven't actually put it up on our social media as of
yet. No,
because,
sorry. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Brother Royston. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
The video that was shown earlier.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Apologies.
No problem. Right. Sorry. Yeah, Brother Royston. If that video that you played up, it's from YouTube, right?
No,
well,
it was actually sent. But Charles, could you answer what you was going to say, please?
Okay.
Right.
So,
yeah. No, we haven't actually put the link up on our social media yet, because it's going out on Arise News across Africa and in the UK, and they wanted to kind of put the link out before effectively we did, but for some reason it got linked and went viral before they had a chance to put it out. So we're not going to put it up officially until tomorrow, and then it will be up on our social media, and people will be able to leave comments, etc. at that point. All right, but it'll literally be on our Instagram page, on the Taking the Initiative Instagram page. All right.
So
thank you.
Yeah, so my comment on that video was that where our sister allowed herself to be snookered, when he said, you know, it says about cutting link to Africa, you know, and she said, oh, is that what it says? You know, so it means that she's gone along with that statement about cutting links to Africa or cutting aid to Africa. So, you know, my ask is that whatever does get put out, that it absolutely clarifies that point, because that might have some people step back from the idea of supporting our brothers and sisters.
I think, sorry, Royce, I think what is happening here as well, and this is why I'm kind of glad I was invited to this platform, like you get a chance to speak to like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that they feel a threat, that's a threat. They come down on it and a ton of brick. They bring infiltrators from all angles to come and infiltrate in the ways of distorting the truth, changing our words around and stuff like that. I've had the troubles with the media. RT News labeled me a terrorist and said I said black-led. They've been saying on Twitter I'm planning to enslave the white men and that they'll never be our equal. They might have heard me say they'll never be our equal, because that's true. I've never said I'm going to enslave anybody. But it's about us as black people deciding what is facts for us, and when we have in-house meetings like this that we could really discuss and talk about what is actual factual, then we don't have to listen to them outside. So for me, that's what's really important here, is that we don't allow all this new COVID stuff to brush out the fact that we're in a fight right now, together more so now than ever. Trisha, I saw that you put your hand up there.
Yeah, I just wondered if you would be, I mean, because we are in a position where whatever we say, if it doesn't fit the Eurocentric narrative, it's going to be interpreted or changed to suit them, not what we are actually saying, not appreciated, not valued. You know, that we are used as and when it suits them.
Tokenism.
So I just wondered whether there might be an opportunity for you, I'm sure there will be an opportunity for you to do your own video in terms of what you stand for, what you represent, and maybe in terms of some of the information that may have been put out on this video that's been now circulating, for you to actually challenge that.
So I plan to do that tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm supposed to be meeting up with a videographer to do that, because for me, the urgency of like dismissing the claim against the aid against Africa is very important to me, because I'm a Panther and I've not just joined this fight for anything but my Black people, and that's how straightforward I can keep it. So for me, that's important to make sure I bring some clarity to that, so that people can know that's not what we stand for, that's not a part of our values.
The other question I wanted to ask, I will ask Charles, but I'll ask you as well, is your view on the reparation that's now been going, African emancipation reparation that's been going now for about 7 years. Are you aware of this organisation, and have you made any attempts to link up with individuals involved in that?
So we haven't made any attempts to link up with them as far as I'm concerned, or no. What we're trying to do is get in touch with different organizations, so not just the one, because we believe in one voice. If we could get the Garvey community, the Pan-African community, if we could get everyone to come under one voice, like in a people's assembly, we can have a better idea and a clearer idea of what reparation means to each organization. Because as long as we've all been fighting for it over the years, sometimes we're different with the ways that we want to see it implemented or what we see reparation as. As for TTIP, I know that we're looking at reparation as some form of a tax relief, whether it's they give us a tax break in time for us to build up our Black economy and to have our own things like our own schools, our own banks, our own, looking for them to give us that break. Because I'm aware that they're never going to be able to pay us all cash. And the more we keep asking for that cash, we're losing time in achieving at least something.
Yeah, there's an issue there, because the reparation is not just about money. I'm not going to prolong this, but it's not just about money. It's really, there's like 5 main principles to reparations that we really, whether it's your group or One Voice or whoever, really need to understand that all of this, in terms of our action as African heritage people, all of this that we do comes under reparations. And I really feel that we would be stronger if there was the link that you've just outlined, rather than individuals working. As you say, you stand alone, and that can be quite a lonely place to be.
I think it starts from doing things like this, having workshops like this, doing the outreach work, and really educating youth, because a lot of youth, it's all good and well as speaking about reparations, and us lot as activists or freedom fighters knowing what it means and have seen the fight for it, but a lot of the new generation, they don't understand it. So it's about educating them as much as we can about what it actually is, because if we look at the way history was passed down, it was passed down through word of mouth. Like a lot of what I know was given to me by my grandmother, my grandfather, elder aunties and uncles. So because we're not sat down having enough of those conversations anymore, because we are generally so busy and distracted in this world, I think it takes having and making time more for those kind of conversations, where we can look at the principles of reparation and get to really understand how important it is to our ancestors that this is something that we try our best to achieve.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Can I say something here?
Yes, go ahead, Sis Doctor.
Greetings all.
Greetings.
I wanted to just say welcome to Sasha.
Thank you.
Because for many years we've been calling for our younger family to get involved in this war. And so when we have someone who is from the next generation or even the generation after that, based on my own age, I think it's important to welcome you in as a new comrade. We are not always going to say the same things, but clearly we need to be in touch with each other, because you will see things that those of us who have been around for a while may not see. And your fire is very evident. I wouldn't want your fire to go out. Well, I personally am encouraged by the fact that you recognize wisdom and you recognize frontline activity. So I just wanted to say welcome.
You went mute there, Sasha.
Now,
Still mute?
yeah, I'm not mute.
Okay.
I said Black Power and thank you, sister.
All right.
I think even looking at the way I've looked at stuff, and I'm sure if you've all kept up with the stuff that's been going out there in the media and stuff, it's very hard now for me to move, because when I started out, I had the Metropolitan Police ban me from London. I had people getting in touch with me, accusing me of grooming and stuff like that. So they were doing everything possible to scare me and deter me from the fight. And then you had other Black people that were deterred by the fact that I used a racial slur, like calling another Black man a coon was a problem for them. So you had that they had to deal with not really understanding who I am and why I came into the position I came into, being the voice of the generation I'm a member of. So for me, I think the next step is unity. We had a global call for unity the other day, and I tried again to make those connections with the family, with the nation, and with everybody to say, let's come together and keep going. Even if we organize outreach working groups of 6, if we even utilize the way that they're trying to do things and try play with their game, utilize doing outreach work, education weekends, asking church leaders if they would like to participate in running Sunday schools where we could teach the principles around reparation, we could teach the Windrush history, we could teach our children about how important it is that the Black education and the concept of the Black education is understood and implemented now early, just like how at an early age Anglo-Saxons learn about their race and their history and who they are and the positions they've held in history and how they've achieved what empire is that they've got. We need to learn the same at an early age. Early intervention, things like the race offenders register, which will teach a white person that is raising their child to be a racist to think twice, because not only will it affect their employment, where they live, where they travel to, it will affect their whole life. So it's getting serious about those actions, and I think that's...
Sorry, Sasha, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but would it be possible for you to speak up a little bit louder? It's very low.
Royston, are you able to put up your volume on your device? Royston?
It's not me. Something's happened that your volume's changed, Sasha.
Right, is your volume up to full blast? Because I noticed before when he's doing these the screen share, your volume was halfway.
Yeah, but that's not the challenge we have here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, mine is at full. Mine is on, but do be aware my phone does this as well.
Okay.
So at times you're able to hear me, at times you're not.
Yeah, I understand. It
does that sometimes. But what I was basically saying was I believe that now we have the time to unify, come into this fight together. The action that I was looking to take, especially with the new COVID restrictions, was asking church leaders and people that have space available if they would host class, if they will host a sitting where we could educate our people on the principles of reparation, where we could talk about building in-house unity and get to settle some of our in-house problems. Because one thing, when coming into this, I realized that there was a lot of in-house problems amongst the elders. Like certain elders didn't speak to each other because of a certain reason. A certain elder was saying, don't listen to this one, don't listen to that one, or it was difference in opinions at times when who to reach out to, who had the platform that meant that I could get in touch with the wider community. And I was finding it hard. So I think we need to make these spaces where we can have these discussions, have the classes where we're educating our children on politics, economic leverage, what it means, what past things that we've gone through that meant that we're still in this fight and want to keep in this fight, and about social conditioning, the same words that they use. We need to get our children familiarized with those words so they know when they're under attack. Because what happened to me when I went to uni, I didn't always know when I was under attack because of the terminology that they will use, like the banking concept of education, neoliberalism, and oppression. And they would use all of these fancy words like bourgeoisie and proletariat. They will use all these fancy words that I didn't know that I was under attack. And once I started to learn the concepts and I started to apply them to the things that I was experiencing in my life, and I really got to know them, then it was a problem that I knew them. So I think that we need to teach our children those things so they know the tools that are going to be used against them so they can spot them at an early stage. Like educating our parents as well. I remember if you got excluded, your parents will punish you twice as hard. So it's almost helping a slave master to double punish you instead of saying, right, what is it that you're skilled in? Because now you're not in that system. We need to look at entrepreneurship. We need to look at educating you in this world, our Black world, because they've rejected you now. So I'm not going to sit by and watch you live out a self-fulfilling prophecy or wait until you get disenfranchised. I'm going to get in now and teach our children about debt management, looking at property and owning things, and what it means to have inherited hereditary wealth that's hereditary, and how it can sustain things, life insurance. There's just so much that the younger generation has realized that we don't know. And we need your wisdom in order to know those stuff, in order to help us get to the next level of understanding where we need to learn more, or where we could teach you about the stuff that we now know.
We've spoken before about intergenerational activity, and clearly referring back to what Royston said about, you know, lost generation in terms of divisions, you know, we're clearly aware of that. And through the Garvey Village, this is something that we would like to change. We want to reconnect with our young people, because it's together we are much stronger. And as you say, learn from each other. And this is why, you know, I asked the question around reparations, because there are individuals there, elders there, who are able to share information with you, who you know, I'm not saying, you know, give up what you're doing, but you just make you stronger, more.
I want to learn. I want to learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. And these are people that you know, we'll be happy to teach you. Yeah. And we would be happy to have your energy, because it's about balance. And I think it'd be really wonderful if the connections are made between us and, you know, Garvey Village, you know, reparations, yourself, and other positive organizations moving forward.
Definitely.
Okay. So that's something we will look to join the dots on. Yeah. If you're committed to that, we can join the dots in relation to that happening. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sister.
As I said, we need more people like you. We do, really do.
No, we celebrate you. We celebrate you, and it is difficult. It is a challenge, you know, especially the negative stuff. But you need to know that the elders are here, you know, and we do have your back. We just need to be working together.
I hope at some point we can have like a people's assembly where you could get myself, Forever Family, and everyone, like all of us as younger generations, to really see what it is that we're in a time of. I think not a lot of people look at it the way I look at it. They don't see the urgency of it when they see.
I think it's very urgent for
me saying irony. They're saying, "Oh, it's radical." No, we are really at a pivotal point that it's now or never. And I'm no longer willing to lay down and say, oh, I'll wait for white rescue. In my world, there's no such thing as white rescue anymore. The only thing I'm waiting on is, as a Black men and women, for us to stand up. We're more than capable of it. We just need to believe in ourselves and love each other. Like, there's power in love.
Absolutely.
There's so much more power in love than there is in hate. And I think the one thing they fear is us genuinely having that love for each other and embracing each other in this. Because the more we communicate with each other, we'll understand, oh, there's not that much that sets us apart. We're in it for the same thing. It's just that we've been divided in different ways and have been micro inequities that we don't understand. That's divided us for so long. But I think once we get together, there'll be nothing to stop us.
Well, my love for my children is the same love that I have for you.
Thank you, Queen. Thank you.
That's true. I mean, we are our own help. There's no help out there. We are it. And the more we realize that, you know, the better and the quicker things can actually move forward. You know, there's nobody coming to help us.
Nobody. Not even the Jesus that they took Yeshua and gave us Jesus is coming to help us.
No.
And it does take re-educating, and I think it takes courage. And it's a kind of courage that people say to me, but what happens if they deport you? It was meant to happen. If that's the way it ends up, that's the way it was meant to happen. Marcus risked everything for us. Malcolm risked his life for us. When I look at the ancestors that have come before us, they're not living for a reason, because not everything that you could do and remain living, and I'm not scared of death. I know that I was brought here for a higher purpose, and in that purpose, I'm not always going to see. When Jesus came, the more I look at the story of Jesus, I'm saying Jesus died because of racism. Why else would they hide the fact from us that this man was a black man? And look at the persecution he endured, and it's at his hands of his own people at times, when he said, "You denied me 3 times." When I look at that, when I see people that say, "Oh yeah, but we support you, but it's just my livelihood and my organization, and I can't," what does that fight mean to you? Is what I have to ask him, because to each of us, it means something else. It means something different. I might be ready to be awoke, but I'm just not ready to risk it all. Like I've had sisters say to me, "Catch me outside the Babylon hours and I'm all in." What I did was I started my own business, so there'll be no Babylon hours for me. And it's about putting those ways forward to show them that everything the system will try is to make you think that there's no way around it without partially being indebted to them. That is why they created a welfare system. It wasn't for our welfare. It was never for our welfare. So don't be distracted by it. Don't feel like it's there to support you. Find the ways. When I said to my job I wanted to go to the march in London, they said to me, "Oh, but you have to run youth seminars online." I said, there's going to be young people at that march that are going to be at risk, and I want to be 10 toes down with them. I don't want to stand behind a computer screen and monitor it. I want to be there. When they told me it wasn't possible, I went off and I started my own business. I started speaking to other people I knew that owned businesses, and I started asking for advice. I sat down and had meetings of how to structure accountancy, how to do business management, business plan. I went out there and I did all of that stuff. When I was looking at setting up an organization recently, I've been helping Jason Tubada, the artist, set up his trust. And I'm saying, you're going to need people from all facets of the Black community. You're going to need a Black lawyer. You're going to need a Black doctor. You're going to need everything from our own community, so we could counteract and come with our own facts. We have people that's graduated for data analysis. No longer can we take these statistics to be word and facts, because we seen them create facts when there was no facts. So we have a chance now to do it for ourselves. So it's about not going away from this meeting as we're going to connect these, but we're going to really make this happen. I mean, we're going to get ourselves into a meeting and follow up from this. So we're starting to take physical actions and getting these schools set up where we're doing the educating. We're looking at economic ways of, we're looking at buildings to purchase. That it says, okay, if the Garvey Nation puts in £100 and me as a million people put in 200, and we could get it going. We just have to believe in ourselves and start making a structure, because when we go into a second lockdown and this country goes into starvation and they want people on their workforce, they're going to put us up for our labour. They're going to put us up for all of that stuff. But when it comes on to feeding our community and making sure that we recover after this COVID is done, they're not going to ensure that. Look what happened to our Windrush brothers and sisters who came and was helping them through wars and helping them to build their NHS. They didn't make sure that there was security there for them after. So all I want is for us to be ready and waiting, as Trump said to his pals, ready and waiting. As Black people, Black power is very real. They might tell us that we're the minority, but we've never been. There's no way that we could be a minority. The Black woman has the Eve gene. We could never, ever be the minority, and that's the problem. And they're closing the borders to our country, opening the borders to Europe, building prison and imprisoning our men. They're saying that we're too strong, we're repopulating too fast. They're scared of our genetics more than they're scared of our work and our voice and our talent. They're scared of our genetics. and the more we get the younger generation to understand, and it goes deeper than what you think it is. It goes deeper than a name calling. It goes deeper than just rejecting you for a job interview. It's that melanin. It's the very thing that you possess, the thing that your mum has that they want, that they know that they can't have. So they're trying to stifle it out. Black men, there's a pandemic against your life. They've told us as Black women that we should be independent. Slavery demolished the Black family because they told our Black women it was okay to be these independent women, but we didn't need our Black men. And they've inserted so much masculinity in us that we now feel like we don't need our Black men, when in fact we need our Black men. That's how we recreate. That's how we keep us going. So I really can't wait to get the work done, and Black power to you all, and love. That's all I can say. Is all I feel is love from even getting to have this conversation.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Bye. Did you have a question, Lorna?
Yes, I did actually. I just want to pull you back to the bit where you said that sometimes when white people are talking to us, we don't know we're being insulted. I just want to pull you back to that statement. What you, we grow up in a society where we are taught a way of being, all right? And they have their own way of language, just like we do. And it's taken me, what's so interesting is that when you can fight them on their own language level, that frightens them even more.
Yes, it does.
They don't need to understand that you understand them or can actually answer them back on the same vibrational level. All right. But it does come down to learning and whatever, and trying to fortunately learning them, watching them, all right, understanding how they talk, why they talk that way. Yeah. And also it's about
Sorry, Lorna, you need to repeat
the signal.
We've accepted without what we are, and that's where the equality. Fine, can you hear me?
You have to repeat.
Huh?
You'll have to repeat what you said because your signal went.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, did you hear?
Kind of dialect.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So what part did you hear?
We heard up to when you're speaking to them and how, if you understand them on their level, their vibration, how you can respond. But we didn't, after that, it dropped out. So we don't know.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, from my point of view, is when you can answer them back on their level, they don't have a leg to stand on because they know you've now understood them.
Yeah.
All right. And sometimes that is really, really important to be aware of. I've been in many meetings where I've heard what people have been saying. I've understood what they've said, and I've chosen when I respond back. And when I do respond back, they're so shocked that they don't do it again. Yeah. So what I was trying to say is that there's times when we need to study how they react, the words they use, what is the meaning of the words. But don't forget, they can say things, they can look at you, but say things very subtly. All right.
That's what this country is known for.
Yeah. And that's the subtleness that is so hidden at times, that we don't always understand it. So I just wanted to bring that up. And it's also, this is where the education comes into it, that we need to know from our own point, not just who we are, but how do we interact into a society that we can then become equal to. Because it's really difficult to get the balance, all right, whichever way we go. And yes, I appreciate what you said when people said you're not black enough or you're too black enough, because it's something I've been accused of before when I refuse to do things, but I do it in my own way because I understand what's going on. So understanding observing and understanding the words. All right. So sometimes it's may sound silly, but I now understand why I've been watching Trump so much, because I now understand what he's doing, how he's doing it. I still don't understand how he gets away with it, but I, I understand what he's doing and his strategies, because it's the strategies that sometimes we're not aware of what they are doing. All right, I just wanted to say that because it just reminded me of, just where I stand at times. All right. And and if you want to have a chat, then please do. All right. So yeah, I spent a long time.
I'll just make a quick comment on the back of that. I mean, I work as a business coach, and for one organization some years ago, I was doing a 360-degree appraisal assessment, and there were a number of people, managers, who'd been assessed on the 360 appraisal, and I had four people to review the outcome and to meet with them. And I was reading one set of information and my jaw dropped when I realized that I was reading about a Black woman in the organization. So there's a language that they have for us that they don't have for other people. And it's subtle, but they know what that language is, and they communicate in that language. And we, in our naivety, are not always aware of when we're being labeled or misrepresented, or all of those things. But it's so profound now that language is being applied to our young boys, in particular from primary school. Which leads to them being excluded. They're building up a file using particular words that suddenly paints our young men as being a problem, which starts the whole process of rejection, that we grow into, so it's like a funnel or a trap, a net that's waiting to catch our young men, and you talked about the prison system being, the new prison system being built, which is the model of the US, which is a business.
So when we look at the UK's, so I did an essay on the privatisation of the UK prison system. I looked at all the financial institutions that actually benefit from the work that's done in prisons, and how little does the actual prisoners benefit from it. And even when coming out and being put onto probation, it's more a fear-mongering. So if you don't behave this way, it's giving a prison officer the power to decide your whole life, when that officer could have bias, which is why I think the race offenders register is where we might have just got a foot in to hold them accountable. So it's taking that response. So there's no longer a process that goes through. It's people like the prison officer who, what their qualifications are. They're very low qualifications to get that job. And now suddenly they have to act as a mental health officer, a prison guard. They're holding so many labels and they're underqualified for it. So that's who's helping to write your report on your behavior. Once that report goes to the Gov is thinking, but I need this is just an example, it's not factual. Say I need 9 men to help my workload get out to meet this delivery by we have a big delivery in the next 3 months, so we need 19 men to build that. Do you think that he's going to let your son get out of prison until that delivery is met? So they're holding your children for their economic gains. So when we talk about economics, we are economically castrated as Black people. There's only so far you could get in this game before they start to either put more hurdles up or accuse you of breaking the law, acquiring your wealth through illegal means and stuff like that. And it's about killing that stereotype that a Black man can't own things. And it's about encouraging our children from a young age to learn entrepreneurship, because if at a young age I knew that I could own a restaurant and still be studying and still be doing stuff. I first started off at a cleaning company when I was going to university because I wanted to be able to work and study, and I wanted to know a need in a community that will always have the need. I thought, why not do cleaning? Because White people have the money, but they never want to do their own housework. They've always wanted servitude. So that was a gap that I could fill. It's about teaching our children when to recognize the enemy and what areas the enemy thrives in and how the enemy enter those areas. So it's when our children get excluded to go through all necessary possible procedures before we then brand our child the same way the system is branding our child. So you have some of our parents, and my mother was one that wasn't intellectual enough to take on this fight, so she probably would have said, oh, you're excluded, I've got to leave it alone. It's coming together in communities like that, like a village raise a child. It's when there's a mother in a community saying, my son has been excluded, is there anything that you could do to help me? And us getting in straight away and help him. And that prevents the collateral that could then happen. It's putting in prevention rather than looking for cures after it's happened. So we know that the prison system is doing what it's doing now. It's challenging where that money is going and getting our people to say, there's a young 16-year-old girl that gave a climate strike. Why is it that Black people find it so hard to walk away from the master's machinery? Why is it that we find it so detrimental to leave one day of work just to stand and do a general strike? Why do we find it so hard to pull our children? I was speaking to a woman and I said to her, oh, imagine if we had a real Pan-African school, like a proper school that our children could go to. No, I wouldn't pull my child out of school, and I would have to know so much more about it. And we never ask a white man one question before we give them our child, however long. We give them our child 6 hours in a day. While work has always been, sorry, work has always been compulsory in the Black household. So we've allowed them to raise our children with very little question. But as soon as a Black person comes in and says that they have a solution, we question it. Our defense goes up so high that it's never able to get implemented. We don't question what that white teacher is teaching our children.
If they're teaching them.
And they're teaching them self-hate.
Yeah.
And when that self-hate reflects itself back in Black and Black crime, they're telling us, but you're killing each other. But the same fear that you're putting in, you have taught us, is the same fear that we've learned to have against each other, which is why terms like the crab in the barrel effect has come along. Instead of us saying, if we see a Black business, if I'm a Black food shop and I see another Black food shop down the street, instead of supporting to say, oh, there's 2 of us now, we hate on each other. But McDonald's isn't arguing with KFC.
No.
You know what I mean? Mohammed isn't arguing with Abdul. That's probably got a shop next door to his. So we have to learn where to spot competition and what is competition.
Yeah.
And what is representation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Sasha, you have so much to give. So much to give. And we have to invite you back. And I also like to invite you to the African Culture Market to do a talk as well.
Thank you very much.
Your voice needs to be heard out there. It really does need to be heard. And hopefully with you being your age as well can also help to encourage. Seems like you need some water, dear.
Yes, please. I'll be back shortly.
Okay. And with somebody so young as Sasha would help to encourage other young people to stand up. You know, because I'm sure there's Sasha's not the only person or the only youngster who says, oh, we need this or we need that or we need to do this and we need to do that. But seeing somebody like Sasha is an inspiration, and you know, they'd help others to step up.
That is what scares this system. I had more than 3,000 young people on the streets of Oxfordshire. That they've never seen before.
Wow.
I was one of the leading people behind the Cecile Rhodes the RMF, Rhodes Must Fall, the iconography. And when the kids in the university, the young people in the university came to me and they said that we've been fighting for this for years and it's never got anywhere. And I said, that's because you need boots on the ground. There's only one thing white people has ever understand, it's money. And it's where the money is, researching enough to find where that money and that financial tracking leads. And what is it that they fear most is losing endorsements. And one thing the university said that struck me was, yeah, but the family of Cecile Rhodes is no longer willing to give us the money if we take the statue down. And I said, okay then, but you still want Black people to study under this trauma while the white oppressor stands above them. Then when we went to the local council, because I made a first list of demands before the official Black Lives Matter UK released demands, I was the first to tackle our council, which has the shadow council of Labour in it, chancellor in it. And I said to her, we have some demands that I think that you should be able to meet. And it's looking at why shouldn't they, when they started rejecting demands, and I was looking at the reasons they were rejecting demands and looking back over them, I was seeing that it's because they're indebted to corporations. They're promising corporation things. So they're promising corporations before they promise the people. So it's finding those corporations and what they have to gain from that partnership and challenging it based on that angle. So when we challenge the fact that how can you benefit, you're benefiting from your Black students, but yet they're not benefiting from you, because the chances of them feeling comfortable enough to even gain the accreditation that they've come here for, and to even when they leave here, they're still Black. So there's only so much they can do even after having your university degree and being in debt from having your university degree. So then I started looking at things like the Education Network and looking at other organizations that gave education to a university standard. And when I started making a plea to young people, and a lot of young people were threatening to pull out of their university, that's when they felt the threat, because how do they explain all their Black students pulling out? How do they explain the only Black professor stepping down? And it was taking actions like that and actually looking at white unions and looking at them to why our Black students didn't feel comfortable or supported by these unions, because these unions were never there for Black people. They were there when they stopped when the slavery ended, and they wanted a way to preserve their white jobs. Absolutely. Because they knew that we were more skilled. So it's actually bringing about that kind of education to say, don't go to these unions, we need to make our own unions. We need to have our own unions in all facets, because these unions weren't there for us. They've never been for us. They were there to keep us out and to keep us stagnant and to keep us down to jobs of servitude.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I
That
think
is so true.
Sister June had her hand raised earlier. June? You changed your mind. Put your hand up earlier.
No, it was a reaction to say, I agree with what Sasha was saying.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
But as I'm here now, yes, I agree with what you're saying. I have been watching our young men, and even where I live, the fact that they are taken out of school and left to roam the streets. The schools I think they handpick the ones that are more likely to be in a certain way, that they end up going into the judicial system or the care system, and then they're abandoned and put straight into prison. And even in prison, they are further indoctrinated, they are further stigmatized, they are mentally and psychologically punished in a disproportionately. I have personal experience of somebody that's been in there just come out recently and said exactly what he faced at school is exactly what he faced within the prison system. And as you say, the measures when they come out are far more draconian than their white counterpart. And unfortunately, we don't have enough of us to support our young people when they come out of prison, before they even get into prison, because even with the best will in the world, I had picked over 12 young men over 3 years ago. And I reached out to our men to help me support these young men that were in trouble. And even then, each one of those 12, one is dead. One has been stabbed across and slashed across the face. The others have all
mental health.
Have gone, oh, don't even talk about mental health. Don't even talk about that. But and they've all been part of the judicial system, and they're recidivists. And they come in and they say, well, this time are you going to do you're going to try and get a job? He said, I can make more money inside, auntie. And better still, I've got used to this. This is my life. This is my job. And their self-esteem is so low that all they think they can keep repeating the same thing and get a different result. So that's what I just wanted to say, but I wasn't ready to say anything, but there we go.
I completely agree with you. And when I speak about there's things like union never being there for us, the IQ test was never made for us. That was a Eurocentric curriculum.
That's right.
It was never made for us. It was not there for our kids to succeed on it. So when you look at the system that is happening in the prison system, it's the same thing as teaching our boys. The snitching culture was created by them.
Yeah.
So it's teaching our boys to continue that culture in there. And when they made things like synthetic marijuana legal, any study would have told them marijuana was misused in the Black community as medicine, as they made it legal in a sense of, they changed it, they made it into spice.
Yeah.
They know we don't smoke that stuff. So it's a direct attack on the Black men. When Maya Angelou says, why does the caged bird continue to sing? Because they have to, because it's their spirit that they want to break. It's the spirit. So when they end up in a community such as prison, they're getting used to what you would call fast cash. So why would you come out and work for £7 an hour when you could have made £50 in half hour? So it's teaching them the way that they could never win, but telling them that they could win, because they're glorifying things like popular culture, like, oh, I've won because I could buy a chain. No, that's not winning. Winning is having something tangible. When a white person or a white youth say that he's won, it's because, oh, I've won because I'm now the CEO of my company, or I've bought property, or I now own something, I own land. Our youths are seeing clothes, jewelry, and popular culture as winning. They've changed the idea of what winning is. For us, winning is something different to what they've made winning to be for their white children. And like you said, the school system.
And with our young people returning back to school in a haphazard way, I urge us, because what I notice in my children's school, the last two, they have our people in there that look like us, but unfortunately we know they are being used in a way to, I don't know what the word is, to pacify us, the parents. And unfortunately, when they start to do a positive thing, they disappear. And I'm urging us to support our teachers, because I notice when the Black parents or the melanated parents go to attack the Black teacher, we go in harder than we do any other parents. And we need to, any other teachers, sorry. And we need to be asking, well, where did they go?
It goes around stuff like the safeguarding and familiarising ourselves with their policies there as well, because we need to familiarise ourselves around the school policies, because I've been noticing a lot of the times ADHD, ADDD, this, it's another way of dismissing our youth. So it's familiarising ourselves with the process that it takes to get to these endings, like diagnostic, like learning disability and how children are diagnosed in that. When's intervention made before that diagnostic comes about? What is the safeguarding policies in the school? What are the intervention policies in the school? What other organization does that school work with that implements those interventions? It's really getting to know our children's school and stop believing that trust. There's a thing that I find it funny with Black people, we trust our oppressors way too quick. And we would not trust our own. The same way that we forgive our oppressors way too quick, and we will not forgive our own as quickly. So it's a lot of in-house work that has to be done, I feel. And once we've done the in-house work, we will be so ready for them, because we'll know what to expect.
But we have to learn to support each other in this process.
Definitely.
I had great support from Royston in an incident that I thought I used to do quite well with my daughter. And Royston came in with me and taught me that don't let your child do the talking. Adults deal with the adults, and take somebody, never go to school without an ally. You have to find an ally, preferably sometimes a male, female, but if you can't do that, just find somebody that knows the system. There are people like Claudia Dewberry that has a network, a company that helps us, and sometimes we have to learn to spend our money to get the best result, and she has some great results. I think there's another Cheryl Phoenix.
Yeah, I know Cheryl's amazing.
They are amazing people, and we try to do these things on our own. And what we need to do, those of us that know, because we know the parents that are struggling, you can see them, you can see the children who are not in school, and we keep pointing our fingers. It's time to stop and support them. Anyway, I shall stop now. Thank you for the time.
Power to you, Black power to you, sister. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Thank you
Sasha, I'm
so
Chef's
much.
mom.
Ah! Hi, Auntie. She's one of my comrades' mother.
Oh, okay.
Power to you, power.
It's a small world.
We
It
are
really
connected.
is. It really
We
is.
are connected. There's nothing. We are connected. At the root, we are connected. We are one big tree, just different
Definitely.
rocks. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Sasha. And
Thank you.
you've, as I said, you filled us, and I'm very proud of you. And I've noticed you put your details, you've put your telephone number into the chat. So anybody
Yeah.
wants to get in contact with you, they can do. Do you have an email address?
Yes, I'm going to put that into the chat now.
Okay, thank you. And while you're doing that, Charles, are you ready? So we can swing straight into you. Charles? Thank you.
He's muted.
He's muted. Okay.
He's there.
Oh, he's there. Okay. Charles, you got to unmute yourself. Are you ready?
Just give him a call.
I can hear you.
Oh, yeah, it's there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just literally lining up now. I'll be less than 5 seconds. 1 second.
All right, thank
Do I
you.
turn back on my, I'm going to turn on my mic and my camera.
All right. Would you like to introduce yourselves while you're doing that?
Say again?
Introduce yourself while you're doing that. Is this Charles Gordon?
Hi, I'm Charles. Yeah, I mean, I've been listening while I've been driving. Hold on, let me get my camera working. Sorry, apologies for everyone for taking a little while to get online. I've been listening while I've been driving. Yeah, it's been very educational. I've learned stuff about Sasha even I didn't know. Let me get my mic up 1 second.
Yeah.
Right, can you hear me?
I'm going to introduce you to Patricia Palmer, who's one of the directors of the Garvey Village. And Patricia will be asking or conveying with you some questions.
Okay, 1 second. Just trying to get the... Okay, right.
Greetings, Brother Charles, and welcome.
Greetings. Apologies for the delays in getting back, and apologies for my attire. I've just had a bit of a long day. All right.
So I'm happy you're able to be with us. We've been filled up, as Auntie Jean says, with the contribution made by Sasha, and so we are very proud of her and happy to hear her presentation. I watched the video that I think is contentious because, as I said before, it's about people, the information that is put out and what they want to trigger in people's minds, as opposed to what's actually been said and what is behind the interview in terms of your arguments. Anyway, we're happy to have you, and it's really great that you're here, and we would like to know from you directly, you know, who's Charles Gordon? Who are you? Yeah?
All right. So just
what's
a bit of history.
The background to this?
Yeah, there's a bit of history. So let me just fill you in on that. I'm just trying to get my little microphone thing working properly. Can you hear me properly?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You can.
Excellent. All right. Can you speak again?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. All right, brilliant. Yeah, no, so my background, all right, let me get into the beginning. And it's quite funny because it's very similar to some of the things that Sasha mentioned. But my background is I started in business when I was 19 years old. Very humble beginnings. Didn't have much to lose. When I was in school, I got in a lot of trouble, but I don't necessarily think it was trouble based on me being bad. It was more trouble based on me challenging the ideals of what was being presented to me, because I was always the person that if it didn't make sense, I wasn't doing it. And that led to, for me in my school, because that wasn't effectively, just again, coming back to what Sasha said, it wasn't what they were trying to churn out. So in my school, it was a case of, we are trying to generate the next set of factory workers, employees, and so on and so forth. But I was constantly told by my headmaster at the time that I was unemployable. You're never going to get a job, don't even try. And that was, in essence, the message that was thrown at me all throughout my school life. And it got to a place where, I mean, I got suspended so many times from school. My headmaster was a white South African, so he was innately racist. And what the things he used to say to me, especially like even within the closed facilities of his office, he would say very racist and very kind of demeaning statements, but almost with a view to kind of damaging my self-confidence, if that makes sense. And I mean, largely, I mean, one of the things he said to me categorically was that in every group of people, there are leaders and there are followers, and my job is to eliminate the leaders so everyone else falls into place like sheep, was one of the things he said. And then another thing he'd said was that he would bet money I was out of the school before the end of the 5th year. And he was that confident, he was prepared to, this is just him and I having a conversation, but he was that confident that that's what he was aiming, and that's what his objective was. In my school at the time, there were probably about 10 black kids in my entire year group. And out of those black kids, probably only...
Just a matter of interest, was that in London or out of London?
No, that was in London. That was in London. This is in Downham, actually, not too far from where I am now. So Bromley kind of area.
Okay.
Lewisham, Catford, Bromley, that area, South London. All right.
Okay.
And what it actually said is that, because we used to have these frequent situations, and one of the times I got suspended from school, I was suspended from school for being in school when I was suspended, and it wasn't I wasn't academically bright. The problem was that I went against the rules and I wasn't prepared to follow the rules, and as a result, and don't get me wrong, I was very much a young black guy from South London, so I wasn't the best behaved either, so I didn't help myself. But what happened was, for me, because this guy used to say such outlandish things to me, my mum had said to me that I need to record him when he's saying these things, and then ultimately it got to the point where they were trying to expel me from school, and I had recorded some of these things he'd said, and what actually happened as a direct result is my mum had come to the school, I was sitting down in front of the governors, they were trying to expel me, and then I said, well, you know, he said all these racist things, and he categorically denied it. But then in categorically denying it, what he didn't realise is that he'd been recorded. So then at that point, I was kind of ushered out of the room. I played the tape. I said what had happened, and played the tape after he had denied it. So he was kind of hook, line, and sinker as far as I'm guilt and lying in front of the governors. There was 13 of them, I think, in the room at the time. And then he was ultimately suspended, pending investigation into racial harassment. But what was strange is within 6 months, he was let back into the school. So even after being caught bang to rights, lying in front of the whole board, the whole everything, they still let him back. And this guy was an innate racist. Like, there was no grey about it. He was known for it, and everyone just accepted it. And even when he was caught out like that, they still said, you know what, it's all right, mate. You can go back and continue to teach the kids. So, I mean, and that tells you a lot about the message of what's going on and the underlying values of school. And I mean, everything that happened, anything that happens, I was literally dragged into the dragged into the headmaster's office, or put in a classroom on my own, whether I was there or not. Some even incidents that happened when I was suspended from school, I was still dragged in and made to write a report, an account of where I was at the time. Even if it was out of school, whatever the case was, I was always at the, and what it was is, to me, it was almost a picture of mini society and what's to come, because that's effectively exactly what they do when they arrest you, exactly what they do in police. And the thing is, it almost prepared me, as sick as it was, it almost prepared me for what I was going to be up against in society. And that's why I think with the likes of Sasha, as she said earlier, largely she kind of stands alone. And to be fair, when we met Sasha in relation to TTIP, I could see a lot of that, and it concerned me. And I think I did mention it to Sasha at the time, that, you know, I feel as if you've been kind of left out here to dry in relation to what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. And I don't feel like you've got the support that you should have in order to try to achieve it. Because I met with Sasha, spoke to her, and I was like, this is a brilliant young girl with a brilliant mind. And the point is that if it's harnessed, or if they do damage at that level, then ultimately they're damaging her future. And that's clearly what they were trying to do. Because for someone like Sasha, and similarly to myself, I mean, it's one of those, when you're in those environments, if you're not playing their game, you're a threat and a challenge to everything that they stand for. Yeah. And the more you're educating people, the more of a problem you become to the system that they're trying their very best to support, especially around the whole white supremacy elements of things. But again, I mean, I mention it because it's relevant, because what it did is it taught me that I had to be a lot more cautious, a lot more careful, and subconsciously it almost led me to believe that as a black person I couldn't go into business for myself, and I wouldn't be or couldn't be successful in business for myself. When I was looking at role models for business then, I was looking at people like Richard Branson and Alpha, because there weren't any black business role models. So even when I went into business, I went in with a view, I mean, no one knew, the company was called Charles Gordon Estates, but no one knew Charles Gordon was black. And I deliberately kept it like that. And I felt that I had to keep it like that in order to be successful in business. And I mean, I thought I'd wait until a point. I mean, we started in property lettings and management. I opened it when I was 19. My thought process behind it before kind of getting into business was, what have I got to lose? I had no money. I did a property deal. I met with a guy and he explained to me basically the essence of how property worked. His name was Patrick Carpenter, actually. He was a good friend, and we're still friends to today. But he explained to me, right, what you've got to do is find a property, find a buyer, and then you put the deal together and then you make money on the top. So I said, all right, fine. So I found a property. I think it was 55,000 back then. It was worth 55,000. I could buy it for 42. I found a buyer, and then I went back to Patrick and said, right, how do I put this deal together? And he, in essence, put the deal together. The deal made £15,000. He paid me £1,500 commission. I used that commission to set up my office and buy my little sign above the door and my desks and chairs. And then I was in business. I didn't have a clue about estate agency, but I was going to work it out. And then from there, I started in property letting and management, because I looked and it was like, because I was categorically told I was unemployable from school, I didn't think, right, let me go and get a job. And I think that's what separated me from a lot of people, as in, I think by the time a lot of people get into business or get the confidence to go into business for themselves, they're already caught in the money trap. Whereas I was 19 years old, I'd already been kicked out of home and I had nothing to lose. So for me, it was like, well, the worst that's going to happen here is I'm going to be more broke, but that's nothing in the overall swing of things. So I kind of took the risk and got involved. And I mean, what happened, the next stages for me were, I mean, I kind of remember the first day I had like £2,000 in the bank and I had a tear in my eye just out of excitement, because I even though I was doing it, I didn't think it was possible. Even within myself, I still didn't think it was possible. And then I kind of went through, we started lettings and management, developed, and then moved into property sales. This was in the back end of 94/95, so we were coming out of a recession in about 98, I think it was. So at that point we moved into property sales, and I applied the same principles on lettings as we did on sales. So as a result, the company was doing about 50,000-60,000 a month in a very, very short space of time. And then we moved into property development, and at that point then we were doing deals for £500,000 plus, and the objective was just building and buying and building a portfolio. And as well as the estate agency aspect. So all of those things were kind of the essence of what we were doing. I also then dabbled in the music industry a bit and had a few acts that were quite successful. And I mean, yeah, it was just, for me, business has always been very much about kind of looking at the challenges and making it work, and kind of looking at the overall objectives and seeing what business you can make work, what business you can't make work, and just moving with the times and being flexible. And TTIP, the Initiative Party, where that has come from was, I mean, approximately about 8-9 years ago. We were doing very, very well as a company. Had a small team, we were about 30 strong at that point. We were doing very, very well, and I came under attack, and I didn't even see where it had come from. At that point, I'd kind of written a book and started to do kind of seminars with kids and young black kids, just explaining to them and making them aware of what they can do. So I think one of the crucial parts for me in business was the fact that I started young. So, and it's that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but what I've noticed in life is you start in life, you start at the kind of the bottom of the food chain, and then you've got all the confidence, you've got all the ability. This is when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, like you believe that you can change the world. I mean, I refer to it as a Superman theory, because you believe you can fly. And effectively what happens is as you go through life and you get a job, you find that it's not that you can't fly anymore, but your ability to believe you can fly gets taken away from you. And then what happens is, by the time you get into a job and you gain confidence in any one arena, you're then caught in the money trap. So you're already trapped, and you can't then go out and do something on your own, because you at that point you're risking your car, your family, your livelihood, all of those aspects, if you were to try and do that kind of, or take that jump. So the teaching I was trying to do is to teach people to kind of, when you're confident, when you believe in yourself at that age, take the jump then, because that's the point when you have nothing to lose. That's the point when you can take the risk, and that's the point where you can ultimately, where you still have a full belief in yourself. Do you see what I mean? But I think in society we're surrounded by a lot of what I define as naysayers, and there's a lot of people who will talk you out of why you're doing things and make you believe that you can't do things, and it's not their fault. I think largely with a lot of people, they're kind of talking from a position of where they failed at things. So they're trying to tell you in their best interest, they're in your best interest, they believe in your best interest. But what they're actually doing, for want of a better phrase, is pissing on the bonfire. Excuse my French. And ultimately, as an entrepreneur, which Sasha has a lot of those skill sets as well. But as an entrepreneur, you dream stuff up and you make it happen. And in order to grow and to build, you need people fanning those flames. You need people that are assisting, that are fueling your energy, your ideas, and making it happen. And I mean, I came under attack in about 2012, and at that point I'd probably amassed a property base of around 30-40 million. I'd over 100 properties, very busy, very active, very much trying to get the message out there to the younger black kids, and just show them what they could do. There are other options available. You don't need to be out here selling drugs. You don't need to be out here doing these things. You can go into property, you can go into trade, you can go into sales. And these are all things that subconsciously we're led to believe aren't for us. So, and the programming starts young, because it starts with TV. It's like, I mean, even EastEnders, which is a program that everyone watches, right? The only black people they have on there are the drug dealers or the criminals. I mean, even the vicar, they had him in the square murdering the people who lived there. I mean, and these are subconscious things that we're getting programmed with all through the process. And ultimately, by the time we get to 15, 16, 17 years old, we believe in our heads that the only way that we can physically make money is if we go out and we sell drugs, or if we go out and these are all the programmings that we're facing. And it's not cool to be a lawyer. It's not cool to be a doctor. It's not cool to be a business person. It's cool to be a drug dealer. So, and these are the kind of stereotypes that subconsciously we're fighting against, and we're not even realizing we're fighting against it. There's a lot of, and it does come back to the systemic racism acts and the things that are around that, because we're led to believe certain things before we've even started in the game. And it takes not just a woke person, but it takes strong foundations as well to help you to see, well, hold on a minute, there are other options available and I can do these things. And even then in business, even when I went into business, I always believed in the back of my mind I was always going to be portrayed as the bad guy. And then when I came under attack, I mean, it started with Lewisham Council initially, and then they upscaled the attack to the Secretary of State. And I spent about 6-7 years proving my innocence in situations. And it was more a case, I think, from their perspective of slowing my roll, as it were. But I mean, ultimately, the truth is the truth, and right is right and wrong is wrong. So it would all come out in the end, but it would cost you £1 million to get there. But then what I realized is, and this is the kind of the foundations behind the Initiative Party for me, was that we're basically on the wrong side of the fence. We're not sitting in positions of power. We're not sitting in positions where we're in a place where we can physically make change. And more importantly, we're not sitting in a place where we can stop these oppressive attacks. Because what should have happened is, bearing in mind that I was a young black person from the community of Lewisham who was employing 30 odd people, housing 100 odd people within their borough, what should have happened is they should have come out and helped me. But what they did is they turned around and said, you know what, we're going to launch a full-on attack on you, and let's see how you sustain this. And to me, that again is where the problem is. And it's in their minds, I must have been dealing drugs, I must have been laundering money, I must have been doing something wrong. And they used all of anything they could in order to get into my financial affairs, in order then to uncover the fact that I wasn't actually doing anything wrong. Because my point was, listen, I'm just very good at what I do. Like, don't try and hold me responsible for being smart. If you're only earning 20 grand a year, that's not my fault. And that was kind of my arrogance, I think, at the time, because I used to make those statements quite boldly. And ultimately, what I didn't realize is that those police that you're telling that are on 22 grand a year are soon going to become chief inspectors, and they'll make it their lifelong mission to bring you down. So, but these are lessons again you learn the hard way as you go through life. But the thought process process and the methodology behind TTIP was, I thought this dynamic needs to change. And the only way we're going to change it is, it's all well and good us protesting and throwing stones from outside the building. But the reality is what we need to do is utilize effectively the things that are there and change the system from the inside. And that was the essence behind TTIP and why we what made me sit down, because I had a long, hard look at all of this and I thought, right, well, we can't just be sitting on the wrong side of the fence, and we can't be victims of everything that's going on around us. Regardless of how you dress it up, we're in this country, so we need to make it as palatable as we can for ourselves, and more importantly for our next generations, for our kids. And because I don't want my children to have to go through the drama and the stress and the headaches that I've had to go through, because trust me, it wears you down. It's a lot of work and it's a huge fight. And the reality is that what I noticed, and similarly with Sasha's situation, is that when you're in this fight as a proud black person, you don't tell anyone. You just get on with it. You just do what you've got to do. You fend it off and you fight the fight. But ultimately you are standing alone. And these are things that I wanted to change, because I think, as one of the things I learned early in business, is it's all about your network. Your network is your net worth. It's all about having as many people around in as many different arenas as possible, so you can make every aspect of the business happen. But what I found is that we're not sitting on the higher tier. We don't have people sitting in government that we can turn around, because ultimately all of this thing, everything they do, everything they've done is about money. They're all about making as much money as they can. As far as they're concerned, who is this young black guy who's come in here, made X amount of millions of pounds? Do you know what, Roger? Go and get that. And that's their game, and that's the objectives that they have. And the thing is, we should be in a position where we have our own people who are sitting around that table saying, well, no, leave him alone. Like, why are you bothering him? And this is what they have and we don't. And my thought process was, do you know what, we need to change that dynamic. We need to be able to support and help each other. And more importantly, we need to unite as a group of people, because the truth of the matter is, as black people, we're more academic, we're physically stronger, we're mentally stronger. We've sustained levels of oppression that no group of people has ever been able to sustain in their life and walk away and be okay with stuff. But yet we're still kind of held at the bottom of every kind of economic structure there is. So the question is why? And I think, but the objectives behind TTIP were mainly to change that dynamic. I think if we don't start looking at how we're going to change the dynamic, if we don't start uniting as a group of people, then we're never, ever, 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 ever going to change the systemic racism that's around us every day. And our children will still...
Can I stop you there for a minute? Can I
Sorry?
stop you there for a minute?
Yep.
I mean, I think you've given us a lot of information, in terms of your business. I mean, you were described as a self-made property tycoon. So that's clearly, is that true?
Yep. When you say is it true, in what respect? What are you actually asking?
No, because the reporting and how the reporting was it done in a biased way, or was it done in a truthful way? And what you're saying, the description that they labeled you with was like you was a self-made property tycoon. So I just wanted to check that was correct.
Yep,
and also you've started talking about taking the initiative party, which is great, because I think you took us from being in business and being successful in business, deciding then to go to the next stage, which is about looking at maybe getting involved in a party. So tell me what triggered that for you.
I mean, for me, it was mainly the lack of power and the lack of control that we have as a group of people. What it really came down to for me was the fact that we're in this system and we're not physically even a part of the system. And I think subconsciously we're led to believe that politics isn't for us, and largely we don't believe that we've even got the ability to make the changes. So the thought process for me was kind of, well, hold on a minute. In reality, if we get people voted within certain positions and within certain members of councils and parliament and things like that, we then control funding that affects our community. We then control things like planning, which affects our community. All of these things that are impacting us on a day-to-day basis, things like what happens within the community, things like youth centres, all of these things, we then have the power to influence and change. And that was, to me, kind of the founding point. So I thought, you know what, there's no point standing outside, because we've all suffered, we've all had various attacks and things like that as black people in the UK. And the point was that we need to change the dynamic of how those things are handled, and we need to give ourselves just a bit of stability and a bit of security within our own communities, within the country that we're ultimately that we've been forced to call home.
Okay, so take me through the structure, the outline. How have you outlined the structure for the taking the initiative party? What's the structure?
So effectively what we're doing is we're creating what's basically, we'll define it as a coalition leadership. So the objectives are that what we're aiming to do is we want to establish a leadership which is more reflective of the society we live in today, because as it stands in Parliament, we don't have very much black representation, and the representation that we do have, I think largely for want of a better phrase, have had to sell their soul in order to obtain their position. So the issue is that they're no longer representing for black people, and I think
they've never represented for black people, really, have they? They've never represented, because once you go into whether you're Conservative or Labour, you have to toe the party line, don't you?
Exactly.
We've never been represented,
And
even
you're
though
spot on.
for years. Sorry.
No, you're spot on. You're exactly right. And to be honest, funny enough, I had this conversation the other day on a Zoom meeting, and it was really difficult, because what the guy was saying is, why don't we get behind our current black politicians? And I said, listen, they might be black in colour, but in reality, are they really black? And the point that the point is this, and back to what you're saying about the party lines, the reality is they're not going to let through a strong black person into a position of power within any of those parties. And the reason why they're not going to is because ultimately they don't want to relinquish any of their power. And what I had to explain to this person is, imagine you're at war. If you're in a war, even if that person is awake, even if that person is very politically minded, even if that person is a warrior on the inside, a verbal warrior, whatever the case may be, the problem that they have is their whole army is against them. Yeah. So they're going into war, and they're effectively saying, do you know what, but before they can even start to fight the outside fight, they've got to deal with all the internal fight. Yeah. So the problem that they've got is that no matter how you dress it up, they've got a whole back, they haven't got an army, they're a single soldier.
Charles, if we use the example of the race report that happened with Diane Abbott, sorry, I can't pronounce these people's names right, but there was a report against racism against her by members of the party, and there was very little done about it. In fact, when they wanted to go at Jeremy Corbyn, they basically labelled her as some form of a partner of Jeremy's, like some secret partner. So they kept on, the degrading actually got lower and lower and further away from power and decision making than they could possibly ever be.
And that's exactly the point. And that is effectively what they do to black people within those situations. So my thought process was, if we're going to go at this and we're going to go in it from a political standpoint, we need our own army. We need to know that all the other people around us are party lines and what they're representing, and we need to know that effectively from where we're coming from and what we're trying to achieve, that all of the people behind us are fully backing us, and more importantly, they're not going to turn their back on us as soon as there's a problem, because that's one of the major issues I feel with black people, that they're very quick to scatter. And the truth of the matter is, in order to get any kind of change, you need a strong army, you need unity. Do you see what I mean? And these are things that I think as a person I want to bring together, and I want to use TTIP as an umbrella to do that. I want to get the leaders of all the black communities together so that we can effectively have a single voice, and more importantly, not just a political arm, but a network of people that can basically influence change for black people within the UK.
Have you identified these groups in the community?
Do you know what? I have made contact with a lot of them, to be fair, and we've got a lot of support already very early on. So before I even kind of made the jump in what I was doing, because I think the good thing, the position I'm in is I've already got access to a lot of the key people that are relevant, especially within the black community, just because of what I've been doing through my business connections. So it meant that I was already kind of halfway there, and there's already levels of respect with a lot of the relevant bodies to understand that I am that guy who will get the job done. They know me as the person who gets the job done. I'm not someone who's scared of a battle. I'm not someone who's scared of a fight. I go at it, and I go at it to win. And I'm the type of person that regardless of whatever's said and done along the way, I back my people all the way to the end. And that's where I'm coming from. And take that as probably going back to being brought up in the streets of South London. You're not taught to run away if there's a problem. You're taught, you stand there, and you know what, if we die together. And as harsh as it is, I think that's the only type of army that I would want to be a part of.
Right. Have you had contact with Brother Leo Mohammed from the Nation of Islam and Sister Jendai Sawe from and Sister Esther Stanford Jose from the African Emancipation Reparations Committee? Because for me, in terms of us as African people moving forward, whether it's setting up a political party, whether it's about you know, deportation of people, whether it's about the prison system, you know, all the changes that we want to see, for me, comes under reparations. And these three names, people that I've just mentioned, they are leaders in this area. So I wondered whether you'd made contact with Leo Mohammed, Sister Jendai, or Esther Stanford Jose.
Funnily enough, I spoke to Leo quite recently, only a few weeks ago. I know Brother Hillary quite well from the nation this side of the world. But I have spoken to Leo. I have spoken to Esther as well. Leo brought Esther to meet me right. quite recently, so I've spoken to her. I haven't spoken to the lady you mentioned in the middle. I haven't come across her. But Leo's fully kind of aware of what we're doing and involved. And Esther again, there was conversations around
Sister Esther, Charles. Sister Esther.
Sorry, darling. Sorry. Thanks for keeping me politically correct, as always.
So you can carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. So yes, I have spoken to Sister Esther and I have spoken to Brother Leo, but I haven't spoken to the lady in the middle. So it would be good to kind of establish a relationship with her.
Okay. So in terms of you speaking with Sister Esther and Leo, what's your view on reparations then?
To be fair, we didn't get too much into that part of the conversation, and I mean, I've got a kind of a polarized view on it. I think that ultimately, the way I see this working is that, and don't get me wrong, I agree with handouts, but I don't agree with handouts. I don't think handouts are the solution. I think it's more about establishing economic stability in some way or form. And I think that's more where my mindset would be. But I'm keen to understand the view. I mean, reparations to me has been quite polarized, as in, well, you know what, you guys have profited off of us for X amount of years. You need to work out how you're going to give us some money back. And that's kind of my broad view on it. But I mean, I heard earlier you were mentioning that there were 5 levels to it. So I'm curious to kind of hear.
5 principal areas, which I'll just state them. I won't go into detail. That basically they are about, restitution, you know, looking at what has happened to us over time and actually repairing the damage that's been done. Compensation is one aspect of it. Rehabilitation is another area of it. There's also satisfaction to ensure that, you know, we have a public apology. We have had no acknowledgement from the system, apart from deep regret from Tony Blair. We have had no apology for the treatment that we've experienced as African people, whereby others have actually had reparations paid to them because of what they've suffered. So, you know, and then there's the guarantee of non-repetition, that we can actually, looking at the ecocide and genocide that's taken place, particularly now with COVID, you know, which is very poignant. That we have no repetition, a guarantee of no non-repetition, so that we can, you know, form the kinds of relationships that you are actually, through the Taking the Initiative Party, are actually aiming for.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense, and that's what I mean. What you've done is effectively broken it down to the different areas that we've suffered, and I think to a degree there is a lot of there was a lot of trauma there. There's a lot of, you know, it's really strange, but I think. And going back to what was said earlier about ancestors as well, but it is very strange how certain people and certain groups of people handle certain situations, and I think a lot of it does come from trauma. I mean, do you see what I mean? There are things that are innate within us and we don't know why we react certain ways, and I think education is part of that. But it does come, to me, it largely does come from the things that we've been forced to endure. Do you see what I mean? The reality is that our parents were tortured. Do you see what I mean? And we're not even talking too far down the generational line. Do you see what I mean? These things were happening, you know, and when they say that, you know, black people are, I think as black people, I think the one thing that I would always say is that we're very emotional creatures, and we're very passionate. We're very passionate about everything we do, and that's what makes us better at most things. But the problem is, it's a strength, I'd say, and a weakness, as in it also gives other people the ability to control us very easily, because they can push our buttons and know how we're going to react, and then all of a sudden you're the angry black guy or you're the angry black woman. Do you see what I mean? And ultimately it's simply because we're very passionate about the things that we care about, and as a result, if someone threatens that or does something to attack it in any way or form, they will get a passionate response. But equally, that's what makes us better boxers, better runners. Do you see what I mean? More enthusiastic in business. So there's a lot more positives than there are negatives, but I think it's for people to learn how to kind of control and enhance that, because it's a power, but it's knowing how to use it. And I think that's one thing that over the years, I mean, I've learned a lot of things, and I've forgotten more things than I've learned, but the one of the things I've learned is the importance of being able to kind of master and control a situation and allow yourself not to be controlled in a situation.
Right. Sasha, I saw you raise your hand. So do you want to ask a question before, or make a comment before I go on?
Can I say something? Whenever we talk about politics and black people, why do we talk about the emotions of it, as if to say we think with our emotions? We don't think with our emotions. We think logically. At times it's hard to articulate that logic that we are thinking, and their dismissiveness comes from using emotion to pin to it. What I wanted to make note on is when you spoke about healing, because it is a healing process you speak about, the Holocaust and the Jews they actually have a law that holds the system to account. So you and I can't go out there and openly say the Holocaust was fake, the way that they diminished slavery down to being hundreds of years ago, when it was only the other day they were still marching for our freedom. Do you know what I mean? So it's about finding a legal way to hold them to account, the same way that the Jews have held them to account, and not to be scared to say, yes, the Jews have held you to account. There's no anti-Semitics in there. It's logics and it's facts.
Yeah.
When they come at us, they're always coming at us from what's facts and what's the facts to back it up. The facts to back it up is we've seen the Jews get reparation, and why they got reparation, and why is it illegal to talk about the Holocaust? Why is it not illegal to talk about slavery, racism in the same way?
Yeah, I mean, they will always dismiss our concerns, but I mean, I'm really happy to know that, you know, Charles and other people are supportive in terms of changing this narrative. Do you know what I mean? We spoke about, you know, the language earlier in terms of how we get manipulated and exploited, because what is said is not always what is meant. Yeah, I mean, I remembered, you know, back in the 60s, children, parents being told that their children were going to be sent to special schools. Special to us was, you know, special. Our children are doing really well. We did not consider for one moment that they were going to be sent to an educationally subnormal institution. Yeah, and that's where a lot of our people were, you know, dumped, if you like. Yeah, but obviously some people took the challenge and got out of it, because some people do well when they're up against challenge, like Charles has done, in terms of his fortitude in actually from 19, you know, setting up your own business and being determined, yeah, to achieve, which is, you know, all great, or, you know, success to you, and well done for doing that. Let's just focus a little bit on the party and the manifesto, if you like. You know, tell us what your main issues are for the manifesto.
I mean, to be fair, one of the things I want to say in relation to the party is, you've probably picked up from my conversation that I'm not a political mind. This isn't, for me, this isn't about the politics, and it's more about the change and implementing the change. So we've gone into the manifesto, we've sat down, we've done think groups and kind of tried to collate as much of the information as we can to address it within the manifesto. But it's not, for me, this is literally about making the changes. So even within the manifesto, I'm not the person who's sitting down and working out the politics. I'm a business person. I'm looking at it and I'm just saying, you know what, we need to change this stuff. How are we going to do it? And the politics to me is the vehicle to do that. So that's not necessarily who I am. And I don't necessarily, what's the word? I'm not, this isn't my
Familiar territory, darling. Familiar
yeah,
territory.
thank you, darling.
Have you got political advisors?
Yes.
Yes, we've got people that are, yeah, we've got people that are fully politically engrossed, let's say, and that's more their arena. I mean, I've got ideas. There's things within the manifesto that I've kind of specifically kind of veered towards, things like the reparations and how we're going to approach that. The stop and search are things that I specifically put in there. But I mean, on an overview, it's more about, for me, it's about making change. It's about gaining influence and making change, because the way I see it is there's no point in us continually crying and not doing anything. And to be fair, I've met, you asked earlier about meeting a lot of the back groups, I've met a lot of them and I hear a lot of talk and I don't see a lot of action. So for me, it was a case of, do you know what, let's not talk about it. Let's get it done. Let's get it set up, and then we'll put the bat signal out and everyone can then come on board, get on board. And what will happen is we will then get the more, because we've got all of our people are in key places within Parliament, within the legal system, but the problem is no one's ever said to them, all right, do you know what, come over here and we'll work together and make this a better place. And so effectively with TTIP, my objective is literally and was to send up the bat signal to say, look, right, all the change that you've been thinking about for the last X amount of years and probably been talking about for the last 50 years but haven't done anything about, here's a vehicle now to do that. And that's effectively the essence behind TTIP, because what I want to do is give everyone an umbrella to work under and ultimately a vehicle to make the change. As I said, I've lined up the door, I've lined up the black carpet all the way to the Houses of Commons, and it's up to those politically minded people to go in and now make those changes. Do you see what I mean? All I've done is I've created the vehicle and created the platform with a view to then saying, right guys, let's all get together and make these changes together. This isn't a me thing. This is very much something that I've done for the people like this, and to me it's now a case of just collating all of those minds that are strong in those areas and that are elite in those areas and pulling them all together and saying, right, now let's get the job done between us.
Okay, so come May, you'll be standing for election, will you?
No, we'll be putting, we are fielding a candidate for May. We're looking at and we're playing with the idea of a mayoral candidate, and that will more than likely be the road we run. But at the very, very least, we'll be looking at fielding candidates in the immediate area. So we'll be looking at Croydon, Sutton and Lambeth and Southwark at the very least.
Brent.
Say again?
Even Brent.
Yeah, and Brent. So we've already got candidates potentially lined up for those areas. So at the very least,
can you repeat the areas?
So we're looking at Croydon and Sutton, Lambeth, because for the London Assembly, the boroughs are twins. So what you'll find is that Croydon and Sutton will be represented together. Yeah. And then Lambeth and Southwark will be represented together by one person. Brent, I know we've got someone for that area, but I don't know the dynamics of how that works. So we're definitely looking at 100% fielding candidates for Croydon and Sutton and for Lambeth and Southwark, but we're deciding as to whether or not we're going to run a mayoral candidate at this stage.
Right. So in terms of promotion, how is that going?
I mean, to be fair, we've only just started, but what I've got is where I've got a lot of relationships in the music arena and in the PR arena, purely from when I was involved in the music game. I think we've got a lot of, we'll have access to a lot more than a lot of the standard kind of political parties will have access to through the radio and through all of the other relationships that are already in place. Because again, over the years, we've got a lot of very influential black people within those roles. And these are conversations that have already been had. And we've just been along the lines of, look, are you prepared to get behind us if we take it down this route and get this set up? And the answers have all been yes. So we're quietly confident that we'll have strong relationships with the likes of Radio 1 and people like that in order to get our candidates in there and interviewed and appealing to the younger generation as well and getting them to understand the importance of getting involved in politics, because as much as they don't involve themselves, the reality is these things are impacting their lives every day, literally, from being stopped and searched on the streets to being how long they're getting on community service or how long they're getting in prison. So they need to understand the importance of making that change and ultimately getting involved and supporting what we're doing. And it's the message is to try and get as many people as we can and to pull together the groups of people that have already got the ready-made constitutions and say, right, now here's our vehicle to change. Let's all get involved to make it happen.
Can I come in? We're also doing outreach work. So if you're head of any organisations that could do with us coming in and doing lessons around political, civic exercise and civic rights and stuff like that, we're willing to do that. also willing to have another Zoom call with you to go through how you could become a member and how you could help to utilize your skills to support the party.
Okay, okay. And what other methods are you using to, you know, recruit to the party?
As in, what other message? What do you mean? As in,
What other methods are you using to recruit to the party?
oh, to be honest, at the moment, we're literally going through the conventional methods, and to a large degree, we're actually picking up a hell of a lot of support just on word of mouth. I think there's a lot of people out there that are very keen for change, and there's a lot of black people out there who are pretty much just tired, I think, of being victimized by the system out here, and it is real. I mean, the victimization is real, and I wasn't brought up with a chip on my shoulder. These are my life experiences that made me say, well, hold on a minute, I wasn't even ready for the levels of racism that I'm going to endure in the business world, or even just in general life out here. So I think and a lot of people have had enough. I think there's a lot of people in a lot of places who just simply want that change. So all we're doing effectively is creating the vehicle for that to happen.
Also using social media platforms. So Instagram is one of the main things to keep up with what the party's doing right now. So you could go on TTIP Instagram, which there's a web page that you can also keep up to date with. There's also a WhatsApp group that announces the weekly Zooms that we have. We've also been...
Can I ask you to put that information in the chat as well?
Of course, I'll do that all for you guys as you speak to Charles. There's also the release of Two Badders music song called One Voice about sowing the seed of unity. That'll be coming out on Black Pound Day. So there's all of that general stuff going on. So while you continue to speak to Charles, I'll pop all that information on. If you could all send an email address as well, so we could get a copy of the manifesto out to you all, that would be brilliant. So we can have feedback from you all on that.
Yeah.
And I get to put the rest of that stuff in now if you continue.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so my final question is, when you get into City Hall, what would be the first thing that you'll do?
Oh, I think we might need to have a party and just have a party and just give it some colour. No, I think you know, we haven't. Then it's not like me, to be fair, but I haven't actually thought that far ahead yet. We're still in the very embryonic stages, but I mean, the objective is to literally, it's all about making change and just making this more palatable, and ultimately creating the opportunities and changing the role models. Even this Black History Month, to be honest, I very much dislike it purely on the basis of the fact, for me, it's not, I mean, it's not history. What it is, it's a subconscious programming where we're being taught that Black people's lives began with slavery, and it's all subconscious messaging that's telling us that we're second-class citizens and that we're not to be proud of. You know, they don't sit down and talk about the inventors. They don't talk about the Black excellence. They only talk about slavery, which are things for me that I would definitely be looking at changing, because I think as a people, Black people have got so much depth and so much culture and so much brilliance, but it's all very hidden from us. And I think it's one of the scary parts for me that we need to change, because as a group of people, if you know you're coming from excellence, you know you will become excellence and you will be excellence. But if you're taught that your history started on a slave ship, then ultimately in your mind, subconsciously, you're always going to have that element of suppression around what you can and can't achieve. And I think so my main thing is changing that mindset and ultimately making Black people proud. You know, we need to be proud of who we are, and we need to understand who we are in order to be proud of who we are. And that's where the ancestry comes into play, because we need to, I mean, we've had our history erased, and that's a fact. Do you see what I mean? You don't hear about what's really gone on and what's really happened for Black people and the things they've contributed to the society. So the objective now is to change that, and I want to change that dynamic so that we can go on to be excellent and achieve excellence, and our children can go on to achieve excellence, you know, and not be suppressed.
I think there are a number of people in our community who are highly motivated to make use of the month, you know, in terms of Black History Month. I take your point in terms of maybe a bit of tokenism, but I think there are people like Andrew Mohammed, Leo Marshall, you know, Robin Walker, Tony Warner. These people have been, who know the game, are actually making use of this month to actually bring information and knowledge to the wider community. So although it's only for a month, a lot of work's been done via that method. In fact, through the Garvey Village or the African Culture Market, we're going to have an event ourselves, aren't we, Jean?
Yes, on the 18th, we're going to have the annual Three Heavyweight Kings with Tony Warner, Robin Walker and Andrew Mohammed. And also we've got Tu Bada is also going to be part of the presentation, and also Dr. Aubrey. So that's on the 18th of October.
Is there any way that we could take part to bring more awareness to TTIP?
Yes, yes, yes. Just give me a call. I'll put my number in.
Thank you, sister.
Excellent. So we need to be mindful of the fact that there are a lot of our people who, you know, past, present, and for the future, are committed to changing the situation that face us. I think you're right, Charles, that maybe the older heads are tired. Yeah, as you say, they're tired because we're asking for the same thing and we're not seeing any change. We're not being heard. We're not being listened to. So there's a certain level of frustration there. However, we do have children and grandchildren who are here, and we need to support them to live to have a better lifestyle than we've had. And so the work that what you're doing, you're actually bringing, if you like, politics to the attention of a lot of people, particularly young people. And hopefully the white people who we've been supporting all this time will actually think twice about, you know, how they relate to us and whether they, in fact, they need to start listening to us. Yeah. So, you know, all credit to what you're trying to do, you know, and very, very good luck with that. I don't know if anybody else in the web who, you know, may want to ask.
There is there's a hand up from Sister Queen, but we're going to have to move on very quickly. So if you make the questions short and the answers shorter, because we've got our next presentation ready in the wings to start. So Sister Queen, do you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you very much, Brother Charles. Great presentation. My question quickly is, do you have connections with church leaders who's willing to, I'm not talking about the old fogies who don't have a clue about what you're doing. I'm talking about those who can be connected.
Well, we have one of the people that's working with us is a lady named Alison Johnson. She's based in Croydon. She is in fact a church. She is in fact a reverend of a church. So yes, we do have connections, but we would very much like more. This is, as I said, this is about getting the network as wide and as fast as we can. So yeah, we definitely would like, and I'm assuming that's where the question's going.
Yes, I will get your details and we will speak further.
All right, perfect. Yeah, because we definitely want to connect as many of those dots as we can. So yes. All right.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah, my name's Brother Adisa. I just got one question. And give thanks to Sasha and Charles and the TTI party for what you're doing. Just want to relate it back to the film clip where it said that the organization sprang out of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I just wanted to know if there's any connection with the Black Lives Matter movement, or are you an independent party?
So, sorry, I cut. Sorry.
No.
Sorry, it cut out for a second there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the film footage began by saying that the organization sprang out of the Black Lives movement. So I just wanted to know if there's any connection with the Black Lives movement, or are you an independent party?
No, we are an independent party, but Sasha is connected to the Black Lives movement. So in essence, there has been an affiliation.
I'm a Panther. I'm connected to the BLM as a slogan, meaning Black Lives Matter. I'm not connected to BLM as an organization when they're saying that lesbians are planning to come take over the world. I'm not connected to nothing like that. As a Panther, they sympathize. I have to be straight with that. They sympathize. TTIP sympathizes with the struggle that is come under the banner of BLM. However, we have to be swayed from letting them box us again. It's not as an outcome of BLM. TTIP has been up since 2016, been doing research, working in central groups to try and get an understanding of what need they'll be tackling when addressing the wider community. So when they tell you that this has come about through Black Lives, it's saying to the people that are against the Black Lives Matter movement, do not support TTIP. We need to steer away from that as early as possible and kill that. It sympathizes with the Black struggle.
Thank you very much, because I've got the same opinion which you just said, that it will, because there is some antagonism against the Black Lives Matters by some fractions of the Black population. So thank you for clearing that up.
Thank you, Rada.
Thank you. Did I have a quick question, Marlene? You make it short.
Yes, Charles, I'd like, I don't know if I missed it, but what is your job? What line of work are you in, your business?
Property development.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's all. I probably missed that. Good on you. And great, Sasha. I like the way you explain your affiliation to Black Lives Matters and everything you do. You're a great person, and I hope you go far, and I hope you get lots of support. Both of you. Big up.
Black Power, Queen. Black Power.
And a quick question, Yvonne. You said you have a short question.
Yeah, I do have a short question. Thank you. Okay. All it was I know, like, one of the issues with the Black people one of the reasons why Black people are not always moving forward is because of the lack of unity. You know, I've been listening to quite a few things already that talk about how the fragmentation works. And when I was doing my course with the Black History man, Robin Walker, he says that there are lots of times in history whereby Black people were very different from each other culturally, religiously, all the rest of it, but they work together. And he used the example of in Palmares in Brazil, where they just work together as a force. And Black people, I know this is contentious, but there are many groups. There is the straight group, there is the Rasta group, there is the this, that, and the other group. And it's when people see each other as different, they're always going to pull apart. And looking in the 2020, is it possible that there can be an overlooking of certain things and allow people to come together? Because there's a huge division. People will, whereby people can galvanize, they all see each other as different. And I do understand the idea that Black people are being attacked on the level of sexuality, but because there are so many people who are gay and Black, is it possible that the different groups can still work together but know that they have strong different beliefs? That's the thing that I want to put in the picture.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you going to go in, Charles?
Go on, you go first.
I think when we look at what it is that we're willing to sacrifice as a whole, when we look at sexuality, especially from a Black man and woman's perspective, at one point that was used to break us. I'm not against what people do in their bedroom, because what you do in your bedroom is none of my business as far as I'm concerned. But when we talk about why is it so that we take time in accepting this kind of a culture within us, it's because when they came after our livelihood and our men's minds and their spirituality, they broke them by sodomizing them. They broke them in the worst ways possible. So we can't skip over that trauma so quickly, because somehow the white man's culture has introduced that it's okay they want to legalize same-sex marriage, they want to legalize it. It's going to take time for anyone to get there. You're asking for us to see each other just as human beings, which I say, yes, great. But then we also have to be careful of what it is that we're pushing to the forefront. Let's not forget about our needs and not push individual cases or individual group cases to the forefront. Because I think that's when it becomes a thing of people start to remember where their morals are and where they want to stop and cut it deep. It's like when you talk about religion with certain people, not everyone will understand the Christianity and what Christianity is. Some people see it as the way that they got us to turn the other cheek. When we talk about sexuality, some people look at the trauma that's associated with it in the Black community. So I think we will get there over time, just by not making it seem like we're not counting that their life matter. We're counting that their life matter, but we're also, in some people that are awoke, they're looking at the sense of social conditioning, what has got them around to feeling that way or wanting to come out that way. And then you have a sector of the community that understands that. Some people just want to live in what they see to be their truth.
I mean, and I suppose the other thing I'd add to that is just the fact that, I mean, as it stands, ultimately, everyone has the same objectives and the same goals. And even if people do or are involved in certain certain groups of people or whatever, I think largely those people have probably even got it worse. So I think that what it comes down to is that everyone has to kind of align in order to make the change. And I think that I don't think that's unachievable. I think that largely people, I mean, and this is just generally from having conversations across the board with various groups of people. I think that ultimately everyone's interest is aligned, and ultimately the objective is the same for everybody, regardless of what your sexual orientation is or whatever the case may be. They all want better. So I think that yes, we can bring people together, and I know Robin Walker, and he's a great guy and a very inspirational speaker as well. So again, and I would agree with him that yes, I think we can overcome the issues and focus on the goal. That's what I'd like to believe, and that's what we're aiming for in an ideal world.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Charles, thank you so much for taking up Sasha and putting her underneath your wing and giving her the wings to fly.
I'm under her. I think I'm under her. I'm a firm believer in, do you want to speak to the man in charge of the woman who knows what's going on?
Thank you so much. And Sasha, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the more
Thank you
power
so much,
to you,
everyone.
sis. I'll get in contact with you. So yes, we put you on the bill for the 18th, and also to come in, both of you and Charles, to come in for the African Culture Market to have you can have a elongated session.
And just one thing I'd like to say, everyone, I know Sasha was doing the individual contacts, but the best way to remain in contact is just to go onto the website and log on. Just literally just subscribe and put your details on there, because there's emails that will be going out to everyone, just kind of advising on what we're doing and what we're up to and when the next things are happening. So it'd be great if everyone could just log on to the website, which is www.ttip.org.uk, and just subscribe, support, get involved, and just stay in touch. All right.
Wonderful. You hear that, everyone?
Right.
Subscribe.
Literally.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
And apologies for being late. All right.
Okay.
Will you be able to stay till the end?
Yes, I will.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Okay, and we're going to move very swiftly on to our next presentation with Dexter Andrews. Dexter Andrews, yes, I'm going to check. Are you ready? I don't know if you still like me to show your footage, because the time of you, or you just like to get straight into there, introduce yourself, what you do, who you are. What would you like?
I'll just go straight into it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Auntie Jean. My name's Dexter Andrews. I am the CFO of Essential, which is a cannabis cultivation as well as a cannabis products company. We do CBD oil. We also have a license in Jamaica to cultivate. We have a license to cultivate. We have we were to start 20 acres earlier on in the year. However, the corona set us back. So now our farming operation won't start until next year. We also sell cannabis products, CBD products, like I said. My other company is called the Panaf Investment Group. That's a company that works as a consultant, and we also take small to medium enterprises and help them to list on the stock market. Now, the reason we started in Essential was essentially to go to that route, to stock market, because we found, as you know, that not many of our companies are represented on that stage. So that's a problem for us, because we do have quality companies, we have them everywhere, but we fall short when it's time to scale up. We may get to 1-2 shops max, and then we fail. So what we're doing in Essential is a franchise operation. So we've just got one shop we're about to open in Leighton. That shop will be the flagship. From that, we then plan to go on and compete with shops like the Body Shop and those sort of shops. So we're bringing holistic health to the high street. That is our plan. And we're not just doing that with herbalists, we're doing that with recognized doctors, such as Julius Garvey is the CEO of our company. Dr. Aubrey, who Auntie Jean mentioned earlier, is also one of our founders. Another doctor, a neurosurgeon, Dr. Hall, is another one of our founders. So we're approaching it from a point where we have proven medical physicians and medical people on our team, which makes it a lot harder for them to dismiss holistic health, as has happened time and time again in the past. And what we found is, ever since the pandemic, people are a lot more aware now. People are asking a lot more questions, whereas before people are simply dismissed as say, oh no, that's wishy-washy. Now their ears are open. So we think obviously it's about timing. But we now are opening our first shop here in a month, and we've already got the online situation going. We have about 60 field agents as well. So we have 60 field agents that work with various salons, etc. So we're pushing our CBD products all over the country at the moment. And we've just signed a deal with Jamaican artist called Popcorn. So we're going to be creating an unruly strain for him, an unruly strain of medical cannabis from next year, as well as we've got a cannabis tea, which is aimed as an anti-corona or antivirus tea, because it's a CBD tea with lemon peel and vitamin C. So it's a natural tea, but it combats all the ailments that you would need to fight virus. What else are we doing? Yeah, so other than that, that's about the gist of the background of who I am and what we're doing at the moment. But what we'd like to do, we'd like to help a lot more of these good companies such as the ones that we've been meeting lately, and help them to scale and help them to have a plan and a clear route that leads you to the stock market, be it by a reverse measure, be it by a listing. But we need to see a lot more of our companies that are good and are quality on that stage. And once that happens, then we'll find a lot more of us will be investing in stocks and shares, because we recognize a company and we trust that company. And we need to be doing that. And obviously our kids need to be learning about these things. This knowledge shouldn't be hidden, because it's been hidden from us for quite a while. And now it's time for us to start to take that initiative. And instead of asking for handouts, we can do this ourselves. We have the black pound, it's very strong. We have a very big market between us. So we plan to help. Well, we do help. My company Panaf also does infrastructure in Africa. We're currently building a hospital in partnership with a company called Bantu, and working closely with the Ugandan government. We have an MOU with them. So we're building a super specialized hospital in Hoima, Uganda. We're also working on several other projects with them over there. I'm planning to go out to Uganda probably in a week or so. I've just been waiting for the airport to open. I opened yesterday, and I'll be back. So between the Central and Panaf, this is where we are. And obviously we know that with a lot of us, we like to see it done. When I say to people, right, your company can list on the stock market, people say, oh no, that's not possible. So this is why I have to do that myself with the Central. We have to do it so people can see it done. When everyone sees it done from the ground up, that's a perfect example that you can do it also. So that is why we've done the Central, and that's why we started from the bottom. So it's a clear example. Everybody is included, and so we can show that route from A, B, C, all the way to listing at Z. And so anybody here who's got a company that feels they're ready to scale, we can obviously speak to you. And even if you're not ready yet, we can work out a plan that gets you there. Even if it doesn't get you there in a year, 2 years, if your plan is 5 years, it's a good plan. So yeah, that's where we are.
Thank you.
Yes, Arnie Jean, any questions?
How did you get in contact with the your team? Because
that took quite a while actually, because obviously I'm a Garveyist, so I always wanted to work with Julius. So about a year, 2 years ago, we began talking about various things that we could possibly get into. They were quite happy with the fact that as a Jamaican, I'd gone over to Africa and done quite well and secured £120 million to build a hospital. So we kind of grew from there. And then he helped me put together the key team really from there. Dr. Aubrey, Dr. Hall. Once you've got obviously a Garvey, it's not hard to get everyone you need really. That's all you need. That opens every door. And that's has. And so now we're opening the door. Obviously Garvey's is at an age where he's ready to relax now. But it's time for us, as we were saying earlier on, to pick up that baton and take it to the next step. And the next step for us is not just having a good company or 1 or 2 shops, it's to be listed. It's to be on that Fortune 500. So that's where we need to be aiming to get to.
That's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You see the fist up from Sasha there. That's absolutely brilliant. So when did this all come about?
It's been years in
Idea,
the making. I've been in the finance industry like all my life. I've been doing my own business since I was 19, 20. I've never actually worked for anybody in my life. So I've always done business. And so I've always just gone from wherever the money was, I'd be involved. If it was property, if it was sales, if it was abroad, I'll go to any country to do as long as it's legal, I'm involved. So I've always been like that, and outside the box thinker, and a bit of but maybe a dreamer. And I think a lot of the key people that I meet when I get to a level now, they can dream with me because we've done stuff and it can be proven. So dreams can become thoughts can become things. So it's a lot of that really.
Okay, okay. You mentioned you got tea and
yes, we've got tea launching.
Is it the ganja
popcorn.
oil?
Yeah, we've got that as well.
Right. Is there any other products that you actually do?
Yeah, we've got a full line of brewed products, cosmetics. We've got full scents. We've got a full range of stock, from shampoos to CBD, leg balms, all sorts. If you go on our website, you'll see we've got about 20 products.
Wow, wow. And how much farmland have you got at the moment? Because you said you've got...
We've got 20 acres already, and then we've got another 80 committed in Manchester, but since we haven't been able to get out there. Yeah, so we've got about 100 acres, but we'll keep scaling up. But we have 20 acres in Bamboo, St. Anne, where we're going to begin.
Okay, okay. And
then obviously, because we're growing for popcorn, we want to do something where he is in Portmore. So we want to try growing, but in Jamaica, the way it grows, there's parts of the island that are naturally better for cultivation than others. So we're trying to stay in the areas where are the best, such as St. Anne with the red dirt, and Westmoreland, obviously, St. Elizabeth, Hanover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sasha, you got a question?
Yeah, I'm from St. Thomas in Jamaica, and when I was back there in March, just before the lockdown, I went to view a weed farm that was in the area. I wanted to know, is there any programs that you're going to do to plan to give back to the community where you're growing the weed?
Yeah, we're working with Julius Garvey, working on the Garvey Centre in Kingston. And so we're going to combine that, because obviously weed will be one of the biggest exports after music in Jamaica going forward.
So you've heard about the Ethiopian Coptics?
I think Dr. Aubrey is a part of the Ethiopian church. He's part of them. So so we're going to have like a centre of excellence, because what we found is there's a Canadian company called Canopy Growth that we were working with last year. And so they were bouncing ideas off them. We were giving them a lot of knowledge. They were giving us knowledge. They were supposed to come in for funding. But what they did was they went to Jamaica after we'd given them all the information, and they went and applied for a license independently without us. And they got it. And then what they went and did was they recruited all the best farmers in Jamaica, the best breeders. They recruited everybody. And then they're now taking them to Canada and pulled out of Jamaica. So they literally went there and took they took as many of the best people as they could, tempting them with a visa, new life in Canada, and got them out of there. But unfortunately for them, Jamaican conditions can't be reproduced artificially. So no matter how hard they try, they cannot create what God has already done. So we know we're fine there. It just makes it easier for us, actually, because they're gone now.
Yeah,
and
they can't come back.
Exactly, and people are not as trusting as the Canadians now. We can see, whoa, you just came to steal our knowledge.
That's right.
Because in Jamaica, they grow a completely different way. They use the sun. So they grow from the position of the sun, whereas over here is technology. So they've gone and tried to take, obviously, our knowledge, proven formulas, whatever, but yeah, so we're not worried about the Canadians. We're just going to use that as an example of why we need to be self-sufficient, do our own stuff. Don't look for them to do anything. We're going to sell in Canada, don't get me wrong. We're going to flood Canada, because obviously Popcorn is signed to OVO. So he signed to OVO with Drake, and Drake's obviously Canadian. So we're going to concentrate our strain over there in Canada, because Canada is one of the only countries where recreational and medicinal cannabis is legal. So that is the first country Jamaica had an export agreement with. Yeah, so that's what we're planning. That's what our plan is.
Wonderful, wonderful. Marlene, I see you have your hand up. You have a question, Marlene?
Sorry, I had to take my mute off. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was talking, but you couldn't hear me. Okay, Dexter, you mentioned the hospital in Uganda. When are you planning to get that built? Because hospital are needed desperately in these African countries.
Yeah, definitely. We've been on that project for 2.5 years. We were just about to start in April, but obviously Corona put us back, because there's an airport being built in the region where we're building the hospital. Now, the hospital needs, that's Hoima, Uganda. So the hospital needs to be open in time for that airport.
And when would that be?
So that is 2 years, but we're going to be about a year behind now because Corona set us back. So we're probably going to have, we're going to have a part opening, but we won't be fully open probably until 2023 now.
What about little clinics that the people need?
There are little clinics there, they are, but and we've obviously put some money into it. There's a hospital called the Hoima Referral Hospital, which is close. However, if you have very serious ailments, if you have serious issues, conditions, you have to fly out. You have to go to Kenya for treatment, or you have to go to Tanzania for treatment, and a lot of people can't afford that. So what happened in Hoima was there was a discovery of oil in 2007. So because of the discovery of oil, there's now been an influx of investment, an influx of foreigners, but there's no healthcare. So this was the opportunity that we saw in there and we worked out. The British government lent them 300 million to build an airport. So you've given them 300 million to build an airport.
And no hospital
20 billion of, 20 billion for oil infrastructure, but the people have no hospital. So what they allowed us to do, the reason why I was able to get the money for the hospital was because I said, okay, the hospital is for all of these oil workers. You have 12,000 oil workers coming into Africa with health insurance there. Where are they going to cash it in?
Great.
Where are they going to use it? If something happens to them, when there's a fire, it's an oil-infant country. When there's a fire due to oil, where are they going to go? Where are the people going to go? So
that's why they done it.
That's why they done it. So this is why I was able to secure the money for the hospital. But
the
caveat for that is, okay, all of the oil industry will pay for the hospital, but that now allows us to give the people free service on a top super specialist hospital, whereas they wouldn't have had before. So this is why it works both ways, and it's good for.
Because I know in Africa, most of the people with money fly out to Europe.
Yes, they fly out to
get
Kenya.
looked
All
up,
of the Ugandans, they fly out to
and
Kenya.
they spend and they waste millions when they could just build
but they have no choice because there's no hospital there. They
so why
fly out
don't
to
they
even give
build
birth.
one? Why
They
does
fly out
it
to even
take
give birth.
someone
People
like
can't
you?
have birth there.
Why does it take someone like you to come and let them open up their eyes?
I know.
It's unbelievable.
Because I guess the rich people, well,
they
that's
just don't give a
ourselves to
damn.
blame. That's it. We have ourselves to blame.
Because
That one, we can't blame
they
on
can
anyone
quite
else.
easily fly out. They don't think of their people because of their colonial mindset.
That's right. And Marlon's got a question. Marlon?
Yeah, brother. Giving thanks for your works thus far. Peace. I recently moved from the state, maybe the end of December, and I spent a lot of time, maybe over 10 plus years in the cannabis industry. Studied in California, going to Oaksterdam University, actually growing for a few delivery companies out there. And I've seen, I was born and raised in New York, but I've seen how originally, it was legal in California, but it was yet to be legal. This was before New York decided to legalize and Florida decided to legalize. And I was active and engaged in the legalization process of working with organizations like Normal in New York and in Florida to help legalize. And now they're both legalized, and CBD is not really regulated by the CBD is not really regulated by the federal administration. So it can be used in a whole bunch of variety in different ways and be tested and be tried and be mixed up with different oils, and can be potentially harmful and dangerous to a lot of users who choose to go down that route, especially people who may be vaping, especially the vape scene is big, and people who are dabbling with
definitely
extraction methods and things of that nature. So we know that basically GW Pharmaceuticals have their hand in the pot. A lot of white companies are coming into Jamaica and taking over the farmlands and all these different things. Even like companies like Sativex, which is basically like pharmaceutical approved cannabis. My question is like, what are your opinions on, on this alternate, and the alteration of cannabis, as you see it from pharmaceutical companies and basically a lot of white companies or, privileged companies coming into the industry and kind of destroying, something that basically Jamaica gave to the world. If you ask me, really, rosters and all. Also, what's your information? Because I would definitely like to stay in contact with you as far as how we can progress.
I'm going to put it into the chat now. So definitely. The cannabis industry has now become, it's nearly comical, the way they're changing the colors and the way they're constantly adding new chemicals and taking it away from the essence of what it was originally for. It's now been too commercialized. So this is why we're concentrating on quality, old school strains from Jamaica, where we know that the conditions are perfect. And it's been that way for 100, 200 years. Like you said, we gave them that. The Indians came over from India to work on the train lines in Jamaica, and they brought this plant with them. And ever since then, we've taught them how to use that plant.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to say to ourselves, right, this is a great product for us, and we know that we can make all the money we need to make. No reason for people to be poor in Jamaica with the plant as expensive as it is and land as freely available as it is. But it's bureaucracy that stops that from happening. Everybody in Jamaica should be able to have a half-acre plot of land from the government. The land's there to give them. And that money there would do so much for each individual family. All right, you can't give them social welfare as you can over here, but you can give them something else that's just as valuable. But we're not thinking outside the box, and I guess the people in power are fine. And as long as the people in power are fine, then they're not really bothered with those underneath them. And that's been the problem I found in Africa as well. There are many, many rich people over there, as you say, they can afford to fly to Kenya. The poor people can't. Say, okay, well, that's his life. Who am I to change it? But you can change it. You have the ability to change it. If I can come in and change it, and I'm from West London, you could definitely change it. So I guess it's just for us to start believing we can do more and not being held by any kind of restraints, because we can.
Right.
Yeah.
More power to you, brother. Looking forward to connecting.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother Marlon. Anne Marie, you've got a question?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Auntie Jean. Thank you, Dexter. What I wanted to ask, Marlon sort of touched on it, was I didn't hear you give your company name or how do we find out about your products or anything like that? So if you
I've put in my, sorry, I'm still adding in the chat. I put both of my websites in. I put a website in there for Pan Investment Group, and I put an Essential in there as well.
Okay, lovely.
I'm going to put my personal email in there as well.
Okay,
and
lovely.
My phone number for anybody who would like to.
Well, just be careful what you add. I don't want you to be bombarded with the wrong sort of contacts.
No, I'm used to it. There's nobody I wouldn't like talking to. That's fine.
Okay, and all right, and I'll definitely be contacting you then.
Yeah, no problem. This is it. We should all need to contact each other. We've all got stuff to offer. We've all got stuff to bring to the table. So
yeah, and
that
then I
only
just
works
wanted
by
to
communication.
add. Yes, and I just wanted to add, just picking up on some of what you're saying, that one of the reasons why we're sort of always complaining about the different economies and the continent of Africa, which is so wealthy, doesn't look after its people.
Yeah.
And obviously there is a legacy there as well. And you experienced it. So to this day, what the black man has is taken away from him if you're not careful. We are creative, inventive, resourceful people, and we're too trusting at times.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you know, you welcome visitors, and when you turn around, they've left in
your
your
hand,
house.
take your land.
Exactly. So just be careful, and well done with what you're doing. And effectively what you're doing, you're trying to build a caring economy where we care about those around us. And so, you know, God bless you on that journey. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't even realize there were so many people who were like-minded like this. I didn't even know there was so many Garveys around. I didn't know there was, I thought it was just me and my friends and that's it. And now I found like, whoa.
Hi,
Jean.
You're out there. This is just one group.
Yeah,
there are others, yes.
Marcus Garvey touched a lot of
But
people.
why are we hiding? What's
A
happening?
lot of people, and the ancestors, or the ancestors from, not the ancestors, the descendants or ascendants from those people are present now. You being one of them, myself being one of them, Anne Marie being one of them. Do you know what I mean? So what he taught about black life, I suppose, or black dignity and black people taking back, you know, what's rightfully theirs, it's still within us.
And the fact we're Africans, identity, you know, to be proud of identity.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we're not a pala, we're a resourceful people. You know, we hail from kings and queens and empires.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, that's right. Before we round up, Empress Judah, do you have a question? So you've got Pauline Lewis there, but it's Empress Judah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just say thank you to all of the presenters this evening. They've all been an inspiration to listen to. And I'm just glad that Dexter as well has also mentioned about Marcus Garvey, because myself recognizing the work of Professor Tony Martin, it's great to actually listen to someone who is actually delivering the goods, for want of another word, like yourself, Auntie Jean. He's actually read about Marcus Garvey, and if anyone has read Marcus Garvey and isn't inspired or changed in some way, then I don't know.
Read it again.
So yes, I just want to say thank you to Dexter, and certainly I will have a look at his and also Charles's and Sasha's work, because as they've all been saying, it's so important that, like Marcus Garvey said, we are our only best friends. And once we recognize we're our brothers and sisters keepers, and we're genuine about wanting to see real change for the good of our people, it's not just about the money at all, it's about principles, and it's Garvey's message of love for one another and love for Mother Africa, then we will go forward like he did and continue to make greater changes now, because we've yet to match Garvey in 2020. Thank you.
Amen. It's true.
Sorry, Dexter, your information is still, just check you haven't sent it to one person, it's sent to everyone, just in case.
I've put it in the chat. I'm not sure if it's,
it's probably sent to one person.
Oh, I think I might have. How do I send it to everybody?
If you click, where it says to.
Pardon?
It says if you go down to, if you click onto where it says the chat.
Yeah, sorry, I can see it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll have to do it again.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me as well, Auntie Jean. Thank you very much. Thanks for hearing me out.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
We did play, I think, the other week. We did play your 7-minute clip from your website. But if you go to the website, you'll be able to see the footage where it shows the team that of who works alongside Dexter. And as I said, support. We need to support one another. And has anybody got any last questions?
No more questions, please. No more questions, please. No more questions, please.
You've got 10 minutes.
No more questions, please.
Okay.
Let's close. Come on. Thank you.
We've got
Every week, Royston is the bad man, bad
yeah,
Jack.
Royston would be the bad man.
Royston's the timekeeper.
Let's
thank
our speakers. Thank our speakers. We got some announcements to make.
I was just about to do that.
Thank you.
All right. I was going to say a great big thank you to Sasha Johnson. Great inspiration. Thank you so much, sis. More power to you. Keep on keeping on, because we need people like you, and we need people like you to encourage others, so you're not walking alone, okay? And as I said, your details are in there. I'll be in touch with you anyway for a future day. Thank you so much for Charles Gordon. Thank you. Another inspiration. But there's hope for us. There is hope for us. And Dexter Andrews, thank you. We got there in the end.
You're welcome.
Missed the
Thank you as
first
well.
time, but we got there in the end. And no doubt we'll be calling you back as well. Okay.
No problem.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. We've got a couple events for this weekend. So Royston, would you like to talk about Under the Mango Tree?
Oh, I've put that up there. Sister Dr. Sandra Richards, would you introduce that for us, please? And stop setting me up as the bad guy. Let's keep time.
You are.
Greetings, family. Greetings, family.
Greetings.
So, on the first and third Saturday of every month, big people come together to talk about what big people talk about. And we sit under a mango tree. And it's in a Zoom yard where we have a gate man. And the gate man makes sure that only we come in, so that we can talk to us about things that we don't talk about. So we're going to be chatting about things that we don't usually chat about. And everybody is welcome. The session starts between 5 and 8. We invite you to come by about 10 to 5, because the gate man has to let everybody in so that we can start correctly. Every week, there is a conversation that can make you laugh, cry, reflect, but definitely contribute. The mangoes are juicy, and we look forward to seeing you there. It's part of the Garvey Village fundraising initiative. So, you know, you're not only having fun, you're actually supporting a really important Garveyite vision. Under the mango tree, come sit with us. Tomorrow, between 5 and 8. So we can chat about things we don't usually chat about. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And also we've got Auntie Jean's African Culture Market on Sunday, on the 4th of October, where we have Aniana, who's going to be talking about the story of Olive Morris, nearly come out of my head. Also, we have our brother Vasco Stevenson on our current affairs, and we have brother called Manning, and there's a couple other people, but I'll put my number into the chat so you can give us a call. If you haven't got the email through, or if you don't get the WhatsApp messages, give me a call and I'll give you the link. So that is on Sunday, the 4th of October, Auntie Jean's African Culture Market, between 7 o'clock and 10. So I'm looking forward to seeing you then. And big thank you again to all our panelists. Big thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. It's been wonderful. It's been very inspirational, and I've got hope again. I've got hope again. So thank you all so much. And if you want to save the chat, you can by just clicking on those 3 dots at the side. Save the chat so you got all the information. I'm going to do it now myself because sometimes I forget. So you can save the information and log it down and get hold of who you need to get hold of. So that's it from me. So thank you very much. And we've got 3 minutes, Royce, then.
Well done. Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a wonderful weekend. One love.
Good night, everyone. It's great. Good night.
So we've got 3 minutes to say good night to each other.
That's the right makeup for running over last week.
Isn't it? What run over 1 minute?
Yeah.
Black power to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night, Sister Africa. Good night, Sis Doctor.
Good night, Auntie Jean.
Good night. Thank
Night,
you, Patricia.
Good night, all.
Good night, all.
Good night.
See you all soon.
Good night, all. Good night, all. Thank you for your company.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Good night, John Boy.